What's up, guys? Welcome into Boxing Scene Today. I'm Chris Algieri, and of course, I've got the Magic Man, Paulie Malignaggi, here with me, and we are covering everything in the boxing world, the top stories across the sport. Champ, how you doing?
Well, it's good. One of the top stories today, you know what it is? For me, personally, they got me an iPad.
Look at that.
So I can read your comments on this iPad. I'm not technologically great, guys, as you probably might know. Yesterday, I was using my phone.
Yeah.
I'll be checking the iPad today for your comments, all right? That's one of the news today on Boxing News Today.
Lance, did you hear that? We also have award-winning boxing writer Lance Pugmire joining us on the top of the show today. Do you hear that big top story we just dropped? Paulie Malignaggi is getting technologically advanced?
iPad.
Where's my iPad?
You don't have an iPad? What do you want?
Lance, but you know how to use it. Me, they had to teach me how to use this thing.
Send me your address. We'll get it going.
And I was nervous. I'm still nervous. I'm waiting to see the first comments so I know what I'm doing over here. I'm seeing them.
Lance, welcome to the show. Thanks for taking the time. So I hear you have some good news for us. You got some big news in the world of boxing today. What do you got for us?
What do you want me to start for? We've got some ProBox news.
That was what I was alluding to, actually.
I got to tell you. Somebody in the comments might have already dropped it. Big Richardson Hitchins news?
Well, that's news.
Okay, well, you know what? We're going to let Lance discuss it. You guys in the comments are too quick. All right, I want Lance to tell me. Go ahead.
So ProBox has entered into an agreement with Taikan Promotions in Japan, and they're going to stage a fight April 11th in Tokyo with Katsuma Akatsugi. Our ProBox fighter who we've seen many times, 14-0, 4 KOs. Remember, he's ranked, guys, by all 4 sanctioning bodies. And he's actually was involved in negotiations for an IBF eliminator in the Philippines with Kenneth Yover. That kind of fell through. This better option presented itself to ProBox to work with Taikan. Taken promotions, and they're going to go fight Mexico's Jose Miguel Calderon April 11th in Tokyo. And from the perspective of ProBox, this is a path that they believe, having this association and being around the bantamweight division, they're going to have plenty of options for Katsuma to be able to fight these guys and still have that opportunity to be in position for the IBF title sooner rather than later.
Yeah, Lance, that's
significant event.
That's big news, great news. Akatsugi is a guy that we've watched grow up on our air. He's really cut his teeth on the ProBox TV and is impressed each and every time out. Champ, I know you're a big fan of Akatsugi and what he brings to the table. So this is big news. This is a transition for another member of the ProBox TV stable stepping up into the big time.
I want to just mention.
Absolutely, a wild card fighter.
Go ahead. Wild card.
Go ahead, Paulie.
No, for me personally, I remember the last time we did a fighter meeting with Katsuma when he fought on ProBox. He was here. He was talking about how the hardships of having gone through the way he had to take fights on short notice at first, and now with a promoter getting advance notice for his fights, he was able to train better for his opponents. And he was getting some stoppages, and not through an increase in punching power or anything. It was more so through just sharp craftiness. He was getting stoppages, and he was looked like a real impressive fighter, somebody that I really, really enjoy watching. But one thing that stuck out to me from a human standpoint, he was going through the paperwork to try to get his permanent status here. And he'd been training, and it was taking years, and he hadn't been able to go home in years. And asking him about, does he miss home? He fancies himself with the American flag and all this other stuff. Obviously working to get that paperwork to stay here. And I don't know, he just had that somber face, like he really misses his family. And I really felt bad for him during that fighter meeting. And then the next night he went out, he performed again. But I remember it stuck out in my mind, like, man, this poor kid is training on his own in LA. He's sad. He probably wishes he could go home,
Well,
look at this,
got
bro.
It now.
Now he's got it.
So now he gets to go home and work and get paid.
As soon as you said these fights in Japan with Tekken, I was like, wow. I was like, dude, Katsuma, he did it, man. He's achieving those goals.
Yeah, that's fantastic news. Also, so another top story that we have, Lance, is since our very locked in group that pays attention to us and knows what's going on with Richardson Hitchins. So there's been talk of Richardson Hitchins considering a move to Zuffa, even though he'd be worried about losing his IBF title. Is there anything new to add to that, Lance?
Yeah, you know what? We had a story on Boxing Scene yesterday. Deck Warrington on our staff had this story talking about the concerns. When you look at the fallout from the Jai Opataya matter, obviously there's some issues that are looming. But I received a phone call after that story ran, and I'll keep it like on background who I spoke to, but basically a very connected individual to Richardson Hitchins who said, like, this is not a concern of ours. There is a possibility that he would go over to Zuffa. And as we've seen the IBF sort of backtrack from the idea of stripping Jai Opataya, perhaps fearing legal repercussions, they feel like they can make this move if they want to, and they will not, necessarily be giving up the IBF belt. So I think that this is something that may be in play, and obviously was more in play when the IBF was so seriously talking about stripping Jai Opataya. But now that they seem to have backed off, I think that there is an opportunity here for Hitchens to basically entertain all offers and consider them instead of backing off.
Yeah,
So,
Lance, you
So Opataya didn't get stripped anymore?
well, there's a little backtrack, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But I want to go back to something that you had said the other day, Lance. You had spoken about, the Zuffa and Jai Opataya situation, where it did seem like there was going to be an opportunity for belts to still play a role, even for the Zuffa fighters. So you're kind of steelmanning that position, is that there is a possibility for the IBF still being involved for Richardson Hitchens if he does make it over to Zuffa. Question, though. He fights at 140. It's not one of the original weight classes in which Zuffa originally came out and said, no, we're going to the traditional weight classes, welterweight, middleweight. We're not having the in-betweens. How does that show itself to be?
Look, cruiserweight was never a division for Zuffa either, but they added it because they had such a significant fighter. And even at the post-fight news conference, Dana White said, at this point, our divisions are our divisions, but we retain the liberty to add if such a situation presents itself. And I think a champion like Richardson Hitchens coming aboard would be that exact situation. These guys are well armed to do whatever they want to do, guys. And I think that if they can land Hitchens, one more champion to their stable, I think that they will make that opportunity. They will make that happen, and they will happily. I mean, we know that there's guys another 140-pound champion, Raul Valenzuela, already fights for Zuffa. So could he come back to 140 and fight someone like Hitchens? Absolutely. So I think all of these things they're not like ironclad policies that they can't deviate from.
All right, but that leaves me a question now. So it's just, what are we just going to make a free-for-all? Today we're going to make one rule, tomorrow we're going to change it to that rule, then next day we're going to go back to this rule. I mean, what are we doing then? It's one or the other. Otherwise it's more of a otherwise boxing is more of a zoo than it was before. That's one of the pet peeves about boxing to begin with, is rules aren't enforced. They're enforced when they want to enforce them. Sometimes it's not, sometimes it is, depending on who is involved. Politics play a role.
Well, champ,
so what's the difference then? What I'm saying is, what's all the change about?
We always say boxing is the wild, wild west, and rules come and they go. Zuffa's falling in line. They've come to boxing, and now
so
they're
then
just,
what's this whole new regime? We're gonna change boxing. I mean, just say we got more money than everybody else, but we're gonna do the same thing. Just say it that way, no? That's what they're doing.
It's the age-old question. Do the promoters really want to fix the system? If it's a broken system, but they're able to maneuver through it, do they really want to fix it? I don't know.
That's why it's not fixed. It's never been fixed or changed to begin with. But these guys made like they were gonna do that. So then don't sell us.
It's politics. It's politics. It's politics. You come in, you say
the
other things you say you're gonna do, and then
but
reality.
I've been telling you, this guy don't tell the truth when he talks. I've been telling you already. Look, now tomorrow he's gonna sign. I don't know, who's one of those smaller champions. Bam. Do they have a weight class low enough to sign Bam? If they sign Bam tomorrow, they'll add that weight class too. They'll do whatever they want, right? So essentially, there is no difference as to what was happening before.
Yeah, one thing to think about, guys, is Hitchens did have difficulty right in his last fight with weight, so maybe he could go up to welterweight. I'm maybe speaking before before all of this is final, but the bottom line is right now, I mean, as we're seeing with the IBF kind of backing off the Opataya thing. I think that if they can make it work, Dana White said like he wants these guys to be able to keep their belts if that's what they want. And you would assume that someone like a champion like Richardson Hitchens would want to keep his belt.
Yeah, I look at it like, Zuffa came in and they were going to lay the law and everything's going to be new, but then they started to realize that they couldn't push so hard so fast. And they're making a lot of concessions to keep the ball rolling for this initial rollout. That's how I see it. I know, Champ, obviously you take a lot more offense to it, but
no, it's not about offense. It's about Mike. Okay, so, you keep your belts, IBF. So now, say they change the rule now back to, we're going to let you just keep your belts. What's the point of the Zuffa belt then? It's a belt that only this club gets, but
I keep telling you, it's a long game. It's going to take a while.
So they're going to eventually eliminate the sanctioning bodies.
It's going to take a generation of fighters to not want these belts anymore. They're going to see how much money is involved, and then it's going to become. That's got to be the goal, because you can't just come in a sport as developed as boxing is. Because UFC, when they took over MMA and they used that WWE method, it was not as developed. They didn't have as many.
Yeah, of course, it wasn't.
You didn't have any many targets to deal with. Now you do.
So basically, just like Frank and Eddie got Trojan horsed, and mind you, they knew they were getting Trojan horsed. The whole business knew they were getting Trojan horsed, and they still got Trojan horsed by these guys. The sanctioning bodies now have that example to learn from, and also the fact that, again, the entire business, just like when Eddie and Frank were being Trojan horsed, the entire business also knows subtly that the sanctioning bodies are being Trojan horsed. Are they also just going to say, you know what, we'll take the money while it lasts and then we'll get burned later?
Well, I think
or do you actually strip everybody who signs with Zuffa?
I think part of the issue what you're talking about is you're putting promoters and governing bodies in the same position, same stable. They're not. They're two different things.
No. With Zuffa it is though. Zuffa's a governing body and it's a promoter.
They're both.
So you gotta line up either with or against.
But for Zuffa, it's two different targets. They got to deal with the promoters. They dealt with it this way. They're going to deal with the governing bodies this way. It's two different targets for them.
But the play is the same.
Yes.
You be a Trojan horse.
Yes.
And it's already been exposed. Not that it needed to be exposed. Like I said, I remember the entire business talking about these guys are a Trojan horse, and Frank and Eddie were just playing along with them. Like, yeah, we're getting our checks, we're getting our money, as if they weren't going to get kicked in the ass later anyway. So now you already know that's the way their play has been before. So as a sanctioning bodies, what do you do?
Do you? The IBF tried to draw their line in the sand, but speaking of IBF, something that you mentioned, Lance, that I think is really poignant is that Hitchens has trouble making 140, obviously, and that's one, he pulled out of the last fight because he got sick after the second weigh-in, but also he's mentioned it in past fights. It is taken away from him in terms of his performance. So there's no question. I'm not surmising he has trouble because of the last fight. He's actually said it out loud. He has trouble making 140. So when I heard about this potential move to Zuffa, where there's technically not a 140-pound weight class, he might not have to worry about the IBF belt because he moves up, he doesn't have the belt anyway. It seems like a no-brainer to me. I thought when they said considering, I'm like, there's no way he doesn't do it, because what's going to hold him back?
Exactly. And when you've got the, Eddie Hearn was on the Ariel Helwani show earlier this week, and he talked about he doesn't want to work any longer with Keith Connelly, who manages Richardson.
Yes, great point again.
As well. So, obviously there was more to it than the Conor Benn case. There was also the Hitchens case looming here. So, look, it's an opportunity for these guys to go and get the best deal possible. And if it means perhaps surrendering the belt, apparently that they would be willing to do that. But again, I think we need to watch this Opataya case very closely, because what the IBF talked about yesterday and retreating from the idea of stripping Opataya is very interesting to me too. And it kind of shows their years-long reluctance to ever really engage in litigation after that famous case back in 2000 for the bribery case.
Yeah, speaking of some ugliness in the sport, when you talk about cases and whatnot, we got Janibek Alimkhanuly being stripped by the IBF over his doping failure, his drug test, which is something that has been a long time coming. And the IBF, again, leading the charge once again with sticking to their rules. For anyone who's not familiar with Janibek, he was
sticking to their rules. It was 6 months ago, no?
Yeah, unified champion at 160, was supposed to fight, failed the drug test for meldonium, very strange drug to fail for. It's a very old 1970s Soviet drug that increases endurance. But yes,
he thought he was going to stick between the cracks with that one.
With an old one?
He thought nobody was looking for that anymore.
One, yeah.
This was extinct. Nobody's testing for it. They still got your ass.
Yeah. Meldonium's an interesting drug, though.
But he is an older Soviet fighter, right? A former Soviet fighter, right? It was Jedi. He's about 40.
No, it's Janibek?
Yeah,
no, 32, 30 is
he?
Yeah, yeah.
God, he looks older. God, my bad.
No.
I'm sorry.
Janibek, very, very good. Excellent champion. Meldonium is it's a really interesting drug that wasn't originally used as a ped. Well, I mean, I think most peds are probably not produced just for that, but it manipulates and modulates your body's ability to utilize different substrates for fuel. So instead of using fat and fatty acids, it'll go strictly to glycogen. So it causes you to.
Does it give you diabetes then?
Well, in a highly trained athlete, no, but it's gonna increase your endurance. It's gonna delay fatigue. You're gonna be able to repeat sprint over and over and over again. I mean, in terms of endurance sports, it's an excellent drug and one that would definitely help in boxing. But what are you hearing out there from this, Lance, in terms of the stripping from the IBF, and then what else is coming down the line for Janibek?
I mean, obviously, I think he's going to be tied up in fighting all these cases for quite a while. So, I mean, what his future is in the ring, I think everything's in limbo right now. This is going to be one heck of a significant fight to try to clear his name, so to speak. I know he has made a point, and I know it's a PED case, so I need to be careful here on this. But I think he has made some point about he had some kind of medical situation that he was involved in, and so the substance that was found in his system, he felt it entered while he was dealing with that medical procedure, whatever it was. That was his explanation, his story, and we know that every single time that there is a positive, there's always some kind of story that's connected to it. So look, he's going to have to deal with this. I think that he's going to be sidelined for quite a while as he's dealing with all this, because the IBF wanted answers, and it was not to their satisfaction what they heard, and so now he's been stripped. And but he carries another belt too, so he's going to have to deal with that sanctioning body as well before he gets back in the ring. And it's too bad, because like you said, he is one heck of a fighter, and he was in position and talking about wanting to engage in unifications, and now like everything's breaking to a halt.
Yeah, Lance, in that particular drug, it's very odd when you see a drug from the 70s come out, because when it comes to testing, it's always an arms race. Guys are trying to figure out new drugs that are undetectable. Very strange to see a really old drug pop up, which does give a little bit of credence to the idea. Yeah, it was a dusting of this drug. It was from something else, but the mode of how that got into your system is entirely on the fighter to prove. And like you said, the IBF was not pleased with what they had said. But yeah, this is probably going to be a long, drawn-out process for Janibek, and we're probably not going to see him anytime soon, which is a real shame, because 160 was actually starting to look pretty good.
Yeah, but my question, first of all, why is it a shame if you fail the drug test?
It's a shame it's a shame that fighters use drugs at all. But
another thing is, Lance talking about, I got to be careful the way I frame this, right? Poor Lance is trying to give us a report where we live in a world where the animals run the zoo. You got to fail a drug test, and I got to be careful how I describe you after you fail the drug test. That's the world we live in. We're literally in a place where the animals run the zoo.
We live in a very litigious society, champ, and especially the litigious sport.
The opposite way.
Lance
litigiousness is one thing.
Himself.
The litigiousness is one thing. I was like, what about when you have no argument, and you still get to be on the side of having the leverage in the litigation? What are we kidding each other? What are we talking about over here, bro? This is wild.
Paulie, that's why you're here. You're the commentator, and I'm the writer.
I don't like when the animals run the zoo. That's all.
Lance, you kick it to a straight, and then Paulie kicks it.
Yeah, exactly. What's with this comment I saw before? They're blaming Keith Connelly for everybody going to Zuffa. What are your take on that? He said he took a Ben. Wait, Ben is with Keith Connelly?
Yes.
No.
So I was going to mention this when you mentioned
said
that.
Belanga's been doing stuff, but Belanga's not with Zuffa.
Not yet.
And then, not
yet.
Oh.
But
so it is a Keith Connelly thing.
So
it is. Look at this guy.
I didn't. So for those of you who don't know, Keith Connelly was my manager for the end of my career as well, and I dealt with. Are
you going to Zuffa?
I dealt. I dealt with Keith Connelly and Eddie Hearn.
If this guy disappears from the seat randomly, you know
where to look. And you know whose fault that? No, I'm kidding. This is all joking, guys. But no,
Gary,
so Keith Connelly.
We're only kidding.
Keith Connelly dealing with Eddie Hearn in Matchroom, because I ended my career fighting with Matchroom and Keith Connelly as my manager, and we were dealing with Eddie. So when you made that comment, Lance, that It's not just the Conor Benn situation, obviously, because Richardson Hitchins is also with Keith Connelly. Edgar Berlanga is with Keith Connelly. Is this something new between Eddie and Keith? They've been a manager-promoter relationship for quite some time, which can be very contentious. That's
it's supposed to be.
It's technically supposed to be, but most of the time it's not. It's usually a manager matches up with some promoter and they bring all their guys that way.
Yeah.
Connolly's not that kind of guy. Connelly goes to bat for his athletes. So you did get a lot of rubbing of the head and egos and professionalism. So there is a little bit to say there, but that's a whole nother story. But I'm glad you brought that up because that actually was a story on Boxing Scene. Eddie Hearn came out verbatim said, I don't want to work with Keith Connelly anymore.
Because he goes to Zuffa?
I don't know if he didn't give an exact reason, but yeah.
But you know what? You get a point. You got a point. I remember Shelly Finkel had all his fighters with main events when I was a kid. And then at a certain point later in my career, when I was actually a pro, a lot of Shelly Finkel's fighters were with Golden Boy for a while. So and then you remember like somebody like Cameron Duncan, rest in peace, was always a top rank guy.
Yep.
So you're right. You're right. You got a point there. So is Keith Connelly an ex-Matchroom guy who moved over to Zuffa? Or he's not an anybody guy?
I don't know what Keith Connelly is doing in terms of his affiliations or who he's working with. Obviously, he's working with Conor Benn, and Conor Benn is now working with Zuffa, but that's not the way. Connelly's not really a guy who just looks up at one.
Yeah, tries to get you the best deal.
Because he works with guys like I believe he's worked with Teofimo Lopez, which is a top rank fighter. He's worked with currently working with Conor Benn, who's a Matchroom guy. He's worked with Edgar Berlanga, who's been on multiple different shows. He was with Berlanga when Berlanga was with Top Rank. So like he's not a single affiliation.
He's a get his guy.
Like I said, he works for his athletes. He's there to find
guys,
the best.
I honestly remember what Robert Garcia said on the show earlier this week about like all his fighters are saying like take me to Zuffa,
right.
And I think
but that's a short-term play, Lance. So you get your 50,000 for a 6-rounder for fight of the night. I mean, a 6-round fighter.
It's enticing for young guys,
exactly. It's enticing and it's a Tyson. It's a Don King. Give you 25,000 in a bag,
it's a suitcase.
And to you it's money, but it's really not really money.
Not suitcase, a briefcase.
So it also surfaced in the Golden Boy. Yeah, it also surfaced in the Golden Boy lawsuit where they're not the lawsuit, but their discussion. Lawsuit where Oscar said that Rick Merigian, who's a very powerful manager, seems to be favoring Zuffa as well. And I think it has to do with, look, if this is where the big money is right now for these fighters, of course the managers are going to hear what Zuffa has to say about their guys.
But are you playing short-term gain for long-term elimination?
That has to be discussed, obviously, no doubt about it.
Well, a lot of guys early on in the career very smash and grab, but let's keep it moving. So the IBF is now reconsidering stripping Jai Opataya. So for those of you just tuning in, Jai Opataya was IBF World Champion, was fighting for this very first Zuffa belt
this
versus Brandon Glanton.
This news is confusing.
It's back and forth.
So
exactly, which is why I'm prefacing
saying reconsidering. I thought they stripped him already. Now I'm seeing they're reconsidering it. So I missed the part where they didn't strip him.
Lance,
I missed that part.
You can probably clear this up better for us. I don't think they actually stripped him. They didn't sanction.
I mean, if they're reconsidering,
they didn't sanction the fight on Sunday when he fought Brandon Glanton. That did not mean he was stripped of the belt. So he still is IBF World Champion, and now they're reconsidering the stripping. Is that
yes.
What I read?
Not only did they not sanction it, remember they pulled their supervisor from the scene. This is revisionist history in my opinion. They had every intention to strip him. And then, in my opinion, based on what we saw, after Dana White mentions the idea and possibility of a lawsuit, suddenly everything has changed. These guys, believe me, I called them each and every day. They were not answering their phone. They had every opportunity to clarify this matter on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. It wasn't until Tuesday, right, that they finally came out with some kind of statement on this matter, the IBF I'm talking about. And it's just very concerning because, again, you saw Jai Opataya and how much, the passion is there about the importance of the IBF belt to him. And the fact that they're like leaving this kid, I mean, I know he's 3 years old, but leaving this fighter in limbo is just so unfair. And the fact that they've sort of changed their opinion right now and said that they will, keep him, I think only has to do with the fact that they've been threatened with a lawsuit, which they want to try to avoid.
Lance, are there grounds for the lawsuit does that really have teeth? I know Dana says that, and obviously they have a big war chest, but are there actual grounds to where the IBF hears that and goes, you know what, let me reconsider, or is it, as you said? I mean, you saw how Jai Opataya and how he does honor his belt, and he kept bringing it around. He did pay the sanctioning fee, all of that. You know, is it one or the other? Is it a combination of the two?
I think that they know that they're on shaky ground. I mean, he did everything. He showed the belt. He even did the second day weigh-in.
Mm-hmm.
He did everything. He had the belt there with him after the fight. I just, to me, it's I understand that there's a discussion or a debate going on, and that you make the case that Dana White started this by saying he wanted nothing to do with the sanctioning bodies. But in regards to honoring the IBF belt, Opataya did that throughout fight week. And I don't understand the grounds to strip him. And I do think, look, if there's a legal opportunity to go after this, I think that Zuffa could do that, and I think the IBF realizes that, and that's why they're kind of cooling their heels on what they're going to do with
So
with this fight.
Zuffa could sue the IBF even if the Zuffa is the ones that initially said they were going to eliminate the sanctioning bodies. Wouldn't the IBF have a
saying and doing are different things?
I'm sure that would be part of it.
The IBF
as well.
have a case? Like, buddy, what are you suing me for?
Yeah,
that's why
couldn't they encounter sue? I mean, you yourselves,
look, guys,
have said that you're going to.
This is again another one of these fluid situations that is going to be uncertain until we get some clarification on it. But yeah, that would be part of it. But the bottom line is that this fighter did nothing to really. He didn't test positive for drugs like Janibek or anything like that. I mean, he did everything right.
I got a question. In the comment section, going back to the drug test stuff, because some guy, I don't know what's up with some of the comments or some of the people that listen to the shows. I can't fathom being that slow, but I gotta address it because it's in the comments.
Who is the slow guy?
London 2475 says, "Why is it a shame if you fail a drug test?" Tell me that was a sarcastic question. All right, slow Adam. Let me tell
Slow
you.
Adam. That's who it was.
Okay,
Yesterday.
no. It's why is it a shame? Because the context was Chris said that Janibek is going to be out of war for a while, so he said that's a shame, and I said
I also say it's a shame that fighters need to use.
No. But then I said, well, why is it a shame if he failed the drug test? Meaning, why is it a shame that he's going to miss time? Since he failed the drug test. It's not a shame because he failed the drug test, so he's going to miss time. But they got to take the context of what I just answered. Did you understand what I was answering when I said that?
Apparently not.
God,
context
dude,
clues.
I get dumber just reading some of this stuff. Guys, don't do this to me. Don't do this to me, guys. Intelligent. Yesterday's comments were very intelligent. Don't do this to me today. Go ahead. Sorry, Lance. I didn't want to cut you off. Let's go back. Let's go back to Jai and the IBF.
Well, speaking of some things coming up, Lester Martinez fighting Emmanuel Aleem, big fight, WBC interim title. Obviously, we've got Canelo Alvarez fighting Christian Mbile. They're fighting for the true WBC title, and then Lester is going to be able to compete against Emmanuel Aleem on our air coming up in a couple weeks. So we got a big fight coming up. Got a nice promo coming up. So check it out.
Saturday, March 21st, ProBox TV invades the NOS Event Center as Lester Martinez and Emmanuel Aleem battle for the WBC World Super Middleweight title. Palmdale's Joshua Kevin Anton battles the Uzbeki Punisher. LA is in the house as Anthony Too Quick Cuba defends home turf against Brooklyn's Wesley Farrell, while Sam Contreras takes on Cesar Cantu.
And we're back. Welcome back. Top stories. Chris Algieri here. Paulie Malignaggi. Lance, are you still with us?
I'm trying to figure out this iPad thing. Just stand on this iPad is falling apart on me.
Lance Pugmire, a award-winning boxing writer, guy who is locked in with everything going on that we never hear about. We have him here. Thank you for the time, Lance. So coming up, we got Francis Ngannou and Jake Paul. What do you think about this, Paul? We got Jake Paul calling out another giant heavyweight who can punch on the heels of getting knocked out and his jaw broken by Anthony Joshua just several months ago, has now been in talks with potentially fighting Francis Ngannou. What are our thoughts here?
I mean, honestly, so many things run through my mind here. You know, is he crazy? Is he crazy like a fox?
Crazy like a fox.
But are you a fox when you're going to get you busted up again? You know, is it, yeah, no matter how much money is there, you're going to risk permanent injury here. Does anybody just save this kid from himself? He's a very good promoter. Why does he need to do this to himself? No matter how much money is on the table here, fighting, you don't play boxing. You don't play combat in general, any combat sport. So you do combat sports. You play other sports, but fighting, you do fighting. You don't play fighting. So I don't know, bro. Like, he's crazy. He's ballsy. Yeah, it makes him a lot of money, but he's also a really good promoder. Like, his company does very, his company does very, very well.
Yep.
And is a growing company. So why would you want to put yourself in a position to hurt yourself more or risk a permanent injury when you have so much else going for you? I don't.
Lance, what's your take on this? Is this a possible reality looking down the line? Or is this just Jake Paul doing his putting on his promoter cap and getting clicks and getting people interested in something, or is this an actual fight that we could see?
Yeah, a couple things, guys. I think first of all, it is a reality. The fact that he would bring this up means that that he wants this fight to happen. But you guys are absolutely right. I mean, the work that he's done as a promoter, it should absolutely be celebrated, and it is probably his greatest accomplishment, even beyond what he's done in daring to take some of these fights in the ring. Getting the ESPN deal that MVP has just finalized. What an incredible accomplishment. And yes, Jake Paul still has the ability to attract a wide audience with his fights, but I think I agree with you, Paulie. I mean, he should be taking on guys that he has a chance against. I mean, let's go back to maybe a second fight against Tommy Fury, not Francis Ngannou. I mean, this guy is has a killer punch and can definitely land it on someone like Jake Paul.
Yeah, and Francis Ngannou, if we remember famously, he fought Tyson Fury in a very, very good performance, and a lot of people actually argued and thought that Francis won the fight. He did drop Tyson Fury in his very first boxing fight, and then went on to fight Anthony Joshua. Obviously, that went very, very different as Joshua knocked out in 2 rounds.
In the comments, they're saying it's going to be an MMA fight. It's not going to be an MMA fight. It's going to be
that makes even less sense. Right? That makes even less sense because especially because, well, you know what? So a little context.
Lance, you hearing anything? Is it an MMA fight? Is it a boxing match? One of the comments is saying
they talked about boxing. Yeah.
Because Lance, this happened at an MMA press conference, correct? This was Gina Carano and Ronda Rousey. So maybe that's the context there, where someone might think that this could be an MMA fight. And Francis Ngannou has obviously been a heavyweight champion.
I got it.
In the UFC.
I thought of a conspiracy.
But he's also boxed at high level too.
I thought of a conspiracy just now.
Ooh, conspiracy time. Conspiracy time with Paulie Malignaggi.
Maybe Jake will do this in exchange for Ngannou signing with MVP as a boxer, as a heavyweight boxer.
That's a weird way to capture a talent, but I don't think he needs to do that. I think he can probably pay him enough to.
But now you associate Ngannou with MVP so much with the fight.
And you put on a big event, which again, the marketing cap, the
and
promoter
then you
cap,
sign him as a fighter. As a fighter,
that Jake wears is very strong.
As a fighter, Ngannou, you can move him a little bit as a boxer, and get him in fights that he'll win.
Absolutely.
He's not bad. I don't know. Maybe this is one of those things. I'm gonna go with that one as far as the possibility. Maybe Ngannou signs with MVP as a boxer.
Lance, how do you take Francis Ngannou? Normally, kind of a quiet, I don't want to say soft-spoken. That's not really the right word, but he's saying he wants to beat Jake's ass. Now, when a guy like that steps out of himself and starts speaking like that, did he learn how to self-market and promote, or does he actually really feel like he wants to beat Jake's ass? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think he really wants to beat his ass because there was some war of words previously between these guys, and for Jake to say that that Ngannou backed out of a fight before Jake agreed to fight Anthony Joshua, I think really riled up Francis, and he's like, okay, well, whatever. This charade is going to end sooner rather than later if we get into the ring with each other. So, yeah, I think how Jake gets under people's skin, and I think he clearly is there with Francis.
Lance, while I got you on, talk about heavyweights, talk about everything. There's a few comments in the comment section about Caballero. What happens to Caballero now? Because everybody's talking about everything in the heavyweight division except Caballero, and that's a pretty good fighter, just kind of being ostracized right now
with a huge fan base.
He's in limbo. He's in limbo. I mean, it's just the way it is. He's gonna have to wait until all these shenanigans play out. I mean, the Usyk fight, with the pyramids and everything else that's going on in the heavyweight division. I mean, that's just the way it is for him. That's his fate right now, and it's unfortunate. But we've seen it throughout time in boxing, where the guy who is so deserved, you can think of someone like David Benavidez, is not going to get his opportunity for extenuating circumstances, and that's just the way it is right now. The fact is that Caballero at least has that in with Turkey Al Sheikh. He's fought for him a few times, so ultimately, I think he's going to get there. I think we'll see him in a title fight, but right now it's not happening.
Well, Lance, to stay in the same vein and to pull from a story that we spoke about yesterday.
Guys, they're saying Francis did sign with MVP already.
Oh, so there's
that's what the comments.
The
comments. You guys in the comments are great. You guys give us our news.
Sometimes
you're
right
too, Paulie, because there was precedent for it. Remember, I think Bernard Hopkins or Oscar De La Hoya did something like that with Bernard Hopkins, and then he kept Bernard around for
see that,
years.
And now it's 20 years ago.
Shane Mosley as well. Shane Mosley was also part of the promotion originally with Oscar De La Hoya, which is funny. Against a bunch of guys who fought each other or fought Oscar.
The comment section's working with us. We bring up an idea, they confirm or deny it.
That's an interesting point. Do you think a guy like Jake Paul, who is an obvious boxing fan, he does because
you can move and go.
He does love the sport, 100%. But do you think he looks at a career arc of Oscar De La Hoya and goes, there are certain things I can do as well? He wasn't obviously the fighter that Oscar was, but the fighter transitioning to promoter, because obviously that's where Jake is eventually going. I think his promotional hat or career is going to be much longer than his fight.
If he doesn't get himself hurt.
Well, he's already got himself hurt.
What I'm saying is that's why you don't risk it too much. But
what do you got on that one, Lance?
Well, I was just going to say, if this movie plays out again and again, as we saw with Joshua, I mean, what's the staying power of Jake Paul as a draw on Netflix or on pay-per-view? I mean, I don't think it's got a long shelf life.
No, if he gets his head knocked off again, I don't think people really want to see him box anymore.
So, I mean, he may be able to do it for Ngannou, but is he going to be able to do it after that if it happens again? I would say no.
But as a promoter, he's excellent, and he's doing a fantastic work, and I think his career as a promoter is going to be a lifetime long.
Guys,
unbelievable what he's done for women's boxing. I was talking about this the other day on the Chris Mannix show as well. It's like, to consider what women's boxing, where it was and where it is now, thanks to Jake Paul. I can remember being on a phone call right when this started with Clarissa Shields. And I was like, Jake's doing a lot of great things for women's boxing. And, she was like yelling at me, like, he hasn't done anything. Like, I'm the one who's done everything for women's boxing. But honestly, they both have. And they both deserve a lot of credit for how prominent women's boxing is right now. And I think
it's a lot of momentum behind it, and they're probably both any gain in momentum for it has to be given credit. And Clarissa certainly is a part of the reason for the gain in momentum, but so is Jake. It doesn't have to be one size fits all as far as one answer is concerned. YMF Boxing, by the way, in the comment section said, I'm way behind, but Zuffa already did try to sign Bam. See?
They did.
See?
They did,
what would they have done? Create a new weight class there? That's what I'm saying, guys. What do we do? We're just today here, today, gone tomorrow. Tomorrow, today's this idea. Tomorrow, today I told the truth. Yesterday I lied. It's the Bob Arum thing all over again. No,
it's politics to a T.
Today I lied. Yesterday I told. Which one was it? It was one of those. But here we go.
The news minute is a minute, but we're here every day and we talk about this.
So there's absolutely no change in boxing except. Whatever.
I think, Chip, you said this a while ago. I think you said it was going to be the same. They were going to fall into the same old pitfalls. But we got an interesting fight coming up this weekend. Arnold Barbosa is returning, and he's coming back as a headliner, and I believe he's coming back at welterweight.
In Sims or something?
And he's fighting Sims.
The guy for Duarte, right?
Yeah, it's a very, very tough.
Not an easy fight.
Very tough comeback fight coming off his loss to Teofimo Lopez. What can you tell us about this fight that's happening in Anaheim, Lance?
Look, it's pretty interesting, guys, and I think that there are some people that are speculating that Arnold Barbosa taking this fight and winning this fight puts him in pole position to fight someone like Ryan Garcia because he is moving up into welterweight. But I think that I'm going to differ with that because Barbosa is represented by Rick Merrigan, who's in this huge, legal argument with Oscar De La Hoya right now. I actually think that with the talk that Devin Haney will be fighting Rolly Romero in May, Ryan Garcia is going to need a fight, and I actually think a better opponent for Ryan Garcia will be Raul Curiel, who's also ranked very high in the WBC and looked very good in his last fight. I believe it's in Palm Springs. So I would say Raul Curiel, not Arnold Barbosa, is probably going to be the front runner to fight Ryan Garcia next.
And Curiel is not with Mergen, I take it.
Right.
Curiel's with Golden Boy, is he not?
As is Barbosa.
He's Robert Garcia's fighter. He just beat Jordan Pantham in that fight that you were talking about.
Oh yeah.
On last minute replacement, who came in. Jordan fought his heart out on a last minute. But yeah, Curiel's very good, and Robert Garcia is extremely high on him. But someone I'm extremely high on is Kenneth Sims Jr. We cannot look past this kid. He can fight, and he's got some really good sneaky wins on his record. He beat Bakhtar Akhmadov. Remember that 40-pounder who actually Mario Barrios won his title very narrowly from years ago.
Curiel beat him.
Yeah, but I told you this is one of his good wins. I know. Here we go with the Barrios.
I'm not saying nothing.
All right, good. He also beat Lance. Who was the other fighter?
I told you. I made a match.
Well,
he lost narrowly in 154.
Duarte, but he beat Elvis Rodriguez, who was streaking. I called that fight. And Elvis at that time, Freddie was really high on him. And Sims went out there and just put on a boxing clinic and made Elvis look really one-dimensional. I was very, very impressed. And even at that time, he had a couple losses and some draws, and he really wasn't expected to do much. Then he goes out there.
He fade a little bit though sometimes. Sims?
Did what?
Sims, does he fade a little bit sometimes though?
He's a very sharp boxer, but he will fade. And a guy like Duarte, that's how he got ahead. And it was a majority decision. Oscar Duarte, one, can really punch, and I think is a very, very high-level guy who was supposed to fight Richardson Hitchins in their last fight before it was canceled. But this is not an easy comeback fight for Arnold Barbosa. Kenneth Sims Jr. can fight.
I wanted to ask you guys a question real quick on Barbosa, because I know we had a story on him recently, and he was saying to, I can't remember what writer tackled the story, but he was saying, look, when it came to his showing against Teofimo Lopez in Times Square, where he looked so flat, he said it was a result of, just being in the gym back to back to back, those consecutive fights that he had, including a Jack Catterall fight. Do you buy that? Is there credibility to that argument that he was just like,
getting flat,
out of gas?
I mean, you can overtrain back-to-back camps, and you get your emotionally up and then emotionally back down. I mean, it can happen. Listen, ultimately, it's your responsibility as a pro to show up correctly. But I mean, yeah, sometimes you want to show correctly so badly that you'll actually overwork yourself, and you'll emotionally run yourself down, getting too excited for one camp, then it doesn't fight, then another camp, and then it doesn't happen again. I mean, it can happen. It comes down to you as a fighter, but yeah, it can happen in the wrong way, because you want to prepare so badly, you want to prepare adequately so badly that you actually run yourself out.
I have thoughts on this, Lance. I'm glad you brought that up, because this is something I actually bring up quite a bit. When fighters are contenders for too long, they start to get what I call flat. They get stale. I was worried about this with Raymond Mortaya, actually, because he was a guy who was fighting on these undercards and looking really, really good, and then he started to have some performances where you're like, maybe this guy isn't the guy. But then finally he got a shot with Andy Cruz, and I had said prior to the fight, if you remember, champ, I said I think he's getting it at the right time. But he was very close to going over that edge. I think Arnold Barbosa has a real argument to say that he did fall over that stale edge, because I called a lot of his fights for a while. I called a lot of his fights on Top Rank undercards. He was not getting the shine. He was calling out Teofimo for years. Was never getting that fight. Finally gets it. But guess what? Teofimo Lopez can really fight too. And I actually spoke to Arnold in person about that. We were talking about the fight, and he said he was flat, but also I was like, yeah, but Teo's really good. And he goes, yeah, he's damn good. So there's that too. You're also running into someone that, even if he wasn't stale, not sure Arnold Barbosa bests Teofimo Lopez. He's just a very difficult guy to beat. But he does have some really good wins. The Jack Catterall fight, very good win. Ramirez was a very, I think, important fight for a guy like Barbosa. Similar areas, similar guys. Ramirez, who's been a champion multiple times, was a top dog in a really tough, deep weight class. Getting a win over him, I think, means a lot for him career-wise and personally.
Listen, he's a high-level guy. If he comes correct and comes motivated, I think he can beat Sims. But
he can.
It's not a gimme. It's certainly a difficult fight to come back with, because Sims is going to be hungry himself, because Sims needs a win like this to get himself over the edge, because he's the goods too. So he just needs that one win to sort of get him over the edge. By the way, Foxy Iro says Eddie Hearn also deserves credit for women's boxing with the Katie Taylor era.
Good point. Very good. Very good point. Very good point. He put a lot of women on undercards for sure. Yeah.
Savannah
no
Marshall. Right?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Ramla Ali put on a bunch of times. So he definitely is in that. Thank you for that. That's a great comment. But I was going to say both these guys, both Sims and Barbosa, very similar careers in different ways. Mm-hmm. Both have good wins over good fighters. Both have Barbosa has
come up short against some
have
good
come
fighters.
up short. Need a good signature win.
Put them against one another.
Boom.
That's it.
That's what matchmaking does. Makes the sport make sense.
I don't want those guys in with the wrong fight again and getting stale again. Put them in with each other. Put them in the bathroom. Put them in with one another.
They're both on a murderer's row if you think about it.
Yeah.
Because Sims coming off Duarte and Barbosa coming off Teofimo Lopez, and before that was Ramirez. Before that was Jack Cat. And Sims, I mean, he's got a bevy of really tough guys back to back to back. So yeah, good fight. But coming up also, Tszyu, the return. He's coming up April the 5th and over in Australia. But the real story here, I think, is that he's looming on a Errol Spence major showdown come summer, fall. And there's questions of what kind of fight is this? Is this just a keep busy fight to get ready for Spence? Is it a sharpening? Is it to get back in the win column? Where do we fall with this fight? Because listen, you're fighting a 20-0 guy.
We got to see where
over.
Tim is at. It's also keep busy. Yes, it's keep yourself sharp. It's keep building the chemistry with Pedro Diaz. It's all those things, but it's also
dangerous.
It's also there's a danger there too. Obviously, it's a 20-0 guy who hasn't been to the level of Tim, but still, it's a 20-0 guy who's going to be hungry. But then there's also the other side of that. Does Tim deserve the Errol Spence fight? He has to show that he can be of this level
an interesting
still.
Take. And
so this is one of those tests where it's like, okay, let's see if Tim is still the goods. Let's see if he can perform so that we want to see the Errol Spence fight.
I will have the meatloaf.
You know what? We're going for it. That's all. That's all we want to see.
Lance,
we want to see Tim.
What's your take on this event coming up with Tszyu returning to Australia, getting back in the win column with the looming Errol Spence showdown later this year?
It's a great opportunity to build his confidence. I mean, he can win the fight. He's going to be fighting in front of his home country, and he obviously feels as if he needs it for whatever reason. Whether it's the feeling of going through the camp, taking on this fight, staying sharp against a guy like we know Spence. Yes, Spence got his ass kicked beyond belief by Terrence Crawford, but even in the fights before that, he was pretty sharp, and you would expect Spence to come back as live as he possibly can be. So Tszyu's got to feel like, look, I need this. I've had some pretty dubious outings before that, so let me regain some confidence. Let me feel good about myself in the ring, and then head into that major fight.
And what's the take on this potential Tim Tszyu? I know we're waiting to see how Tim looks in this fight, but Champ made a really good point about Tim having to prove that he deserves an Errol Spence fight. Does Errol Spence have to prove that he should be in a fight of that kind of nature? Because, like you said, he took an unbelievable beating, has been out of the ring for 2.5 years.
Errol's profile in America is already established, right? Because he was a champion for such a long time. Tim has a big profile in Australia. He's got a relatively big profile in the U.S. It's some of it is because of him, some of it is because of the Tszyu last name. But I think this fight with Spence and Tszyu would sell tremendously in Australia regardless, because it's Spence.
It'll sell here too.
But if Tszyu looks good, if Tszyu establishes himself as having returned the way he needs to in a fight like this, then it becomes big here too. Because otherwise in America, it's more like, is it two-shot fighters? Is it, what are we looking at? I think you could build a profile of this matchup if Tim Tszyu looks good in the fight.
Do you think
as opposed the way you're going to view the fight through the lens, what lens are you going to view the fight as between Spence and Tszyu? I think the way Tszyu looks in this fight will go a long way in shaping the perspective of the way people will view that fight, that matchup.
Lance, let me pose this question to you in terms of Errol Spence and the curiosity of what's left of him. Do you think there's a thirst out there for Errol to come back, in that his old fan base is not going to look at him as a shot fighter, and they're still going to be like, hey man, he's one good fight away from being right back to that guy, because he was that guy. Errol was the guy for quite a while. Do you think there's a penchant for that from his fans still to this day?
I think right now it's a little bit questionable, but I do think the marketing campaign that they will be involved, that will be connected to this fight, both with the promoters and Errol himself. I spoke to him real briefly at the last time
you spoke to
him?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when he was in Vegas. He didn't want to talk on the record about the fight, but you could gauge his excitement about coming back, guys. And I think that, look, a champion like that, even if he has taken an ass whipping like he took against Terrence Crawford, is a very proud guy. And the words that he's going to say about where he is in his career, I believe are going to be very sincere and true. I would take I think that we deserve to take Errol Spence at his word, even though we've seen some things along the way. The car crash that seemed to maybe diminish him a little bit. The Terrence Crawford loss.
The retina.
Multiple car crashes.
The retina, right? Was there retina surgery too?
Torn retina for getting ready for the Pacquiao fight.
There's some things to play there. But, look, I mean, he has only been defeated one time. And I think a fight against Tszyu will be entertaining. I think that even us talking about it right now, we want to see it. It's interesting. I mean, these guys both have given us so many great moments before this, so it's there for the taking. And I think that, again, as long as the marketing campaign connected to it is very strong and these guys come across as truthful and sincere, I think it will sell. I think it'll do pretty well.
Yeah, and my guy Dan Canobio actually spoke to Errol, I think it was probably the same time you did, and he said he looked to be in phenomenal shape already. And so I don't know if you noticed that as well. And listen,
Absolutely,
I think you're right, Lance. I mean, listen, he's one of the best fighters I ever fought. I mean, and I fought Manny Pacquiao. Like, Manny Pacquiao's probably the only guy where I could be like, I think Manny was maybe better than Errol. But other than that, I mean, he was a top flight welterweight for a long time, and he fought absolutely everyone. He even eventually got the Crawford fight, probably too late.
People
but
like it.
Still,
people like it in the comments. Adam Hurley K1P says Tszyu versus Spence has always been a good fight. And then Droid user has a Droid user 0202 is for Lance. He says Lance isn't holding back on how bad Spence got whooped. Lance, you're
I told you, Lance kicks it straight.
Lance kicks it straight.
We were there. Yeah.
But
guys, I there's a couple other news bits that I'd like to share with you guys, if that's okay.
Absolutely, floor is yours, Lance.
We like the news. Whatever we don't get from you, we get from the comments. Otherwise, we'll get it from you. Go ahead.
Okay. There's been talk increasingly. We put this out there. I'm not going to say who it came from, but a little birdie out there told us a couple months ago that Pitbull Cruz was making a strong push to fight Gervonta Davis.
What else?
And we've seen reports. Yeah, we've seen reports out this week that fight is nearing. So I'm being told that Gervonta Davis versus Pitbull Cruz is being eyed for the summer in Las Vegas. And I think that, look, it's a rematch of that fight back in 2021, I believe.
What weight?
Yeah.
What weight?
Would that be 140?
140. Yep. 140. Great question. And that we know that Gervonta has, had all this legal trouble and everything like that. But there's an effort underway. Gervonta is really driving the train on making this fight happen. Everything is hooked to him, but apparently he really wants it. And we know Pitbull Cruz, as interim champion, is definitely a live dog, and it's going to make an entertaining scrap between these two. Does
he really want it? Because in the past, he's kind of seemed like he didn't want it. Is it now more that he needs a fight like this? Because
Gervonta, yes,
Gervonta's always been in the driver's seat in terms of where and when and who he can fight. I think he's run out on that. He has to put up big. And I think this would be a fight that could get him back into contention with the top guys, because we just saw Cruz with Lamont Roach. Lamont Roach obviously has the draw with Gervonta, so it's all in familiar territory here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think. Go ahead, Paulie.
No, styles make fights too. The first fight was a pretty entertaining fight. Gervonta had to kind of go to plan B and start boxing well. He wasn't able to just get Pitbull out of there. Pitbull's pressure is relentless.
I watched that again recently. Gervonta Davis has a hell of a chin. He got hit with some big shots by Cruz.
Good boxing ability too.
Yes, he showed that as well too.
People talk about Gervonta's punching power, but when Gervonta decides to actually box, instead of just not throw punches and actually literally box to win rounds. He's a good boxer. He just doesn't show that.
I thought he showed that in the Ryan Garcia fight, and he spoke about Ryan's power, and he was worried about the power, and he boxed very, very smart. He had a game plan.
And he did it in the Cruz fight too.
In the Cruz fight as well. He was forced to in the Cruz fight, and I think he made the decision in his mind with the Ryan
Because he said,
fight.
this guy's neck is like a boulder. He's not going anywhere. Let me just box him.
Yeah, exactly. What else you got for us, Lance?
The other thing, guys, just to keep an eye on this, is that I'm hearing that there's concerns that the exhibition fight scheduled in April between Manny Pacquiao and Ruslan Provodnikov could be in some pretty grave danger and may not happen. It's just something that we need to watch out for. No one is really coming out and saying that it's dead, that it's flatlined. But from what I'm hearing, Pacquiao is not even training right now for the event. And there's been some issues with the finances of that fight. So it may be in trouble.
So they may just go right to the Mayweather fight, or are they just still going to do
Exactly.
I was gonna say, Manny, nothing would satisfy me more than to beat your ass before you get in the ring with Floyd. But all right, I guess they'll go right to Floyd. What are we gonna do?
A lot of people calling out Manny right now. Yeah, Lance, I was actually in discussions for potentially commentary on that fight, and I haven't heard a whole lot. So that's
okay.
So they just went radio silent on you.
That's the current update. But we do have to take a little bit of break. You guys are listening at home. Stay where you are. We're still here live, coming back. But right now we got Najee Lopez coming up this weekend. Make sure you guys tune in if you're in the area. Go check us out. Go
watch us on ProBox or go to Kissimmee and watch these fights, dude.
Yeah, we're right here in South Florida, so come check us out. But here we go, Najee Lopez this
say hi to us
weekend.
too.
On Friday, March 13th, ProBox TV returns to Kissimmee, Florida for another action-packed contender series. In the 10-round main event, ProBox TV alumnus and fast-rising world-ranked light heavyweight Najee Lopez takes another stern test against Mexican top contender Manuel Gallegos. Up-and-coming Dominic Valle will take on battle-hardened veteran Eduardo Ramirez of Mexico.
And we're back. We're talking big fight breakdown. Lester Martinez, Emmanuel Aleem, just a few weeks away. Big fight for the WBC interim title with the potential to fight possibly the winner of Canelo versus Christian Mbile down the line. Those two have a date
When I see that,
set
I'll
up.
believe it.
Well, we can dream, right? But that's the idea. The idea is you get the interim title and then eventually fight for the real title,
That's
which
the
would
idea.
be the winner of that
That's
fight,
the way it's
right?
supposed to work.
That's the way it's supposed to work. That's hopefully what we're going to see. But either way, we got two good fights. We got Lester Martinez and Aleem. I think is a very, very good fight. We spoke about it quite a bit over the last few weeks. I actually think Christian Mbile and Canelo Alvarez is also a very good fight. But let's talk about what's happening first. Let's talk chronologically. Lester Martinez, Emmanuel Aleem. Champ, tell people at home who might not know, because now everybody knows the Lester.
I think we've talked about it so much that people definitely know.
Do they?
Yeah.
Guys in the comments, you guys know how dangerous this fight actually is?
We've talked about this fight enough. I mean, great that we have it on our network, so we have to talk about it. But I think I gotta tell you, I think I covered all the points. I think I'm in repeat mode now. But anybody who's seen Aleem knows he's got an explosive style, okay? He doesn't shy away. And what I like about Aleem is the fact that he's
not a
maybe
knucklehead
brought
either.
in
He's
as an
smart.
opponent, but he doesn't have the opponent mindset. He
Right.
throws big shots. He doesn't care if you can punch. Sometimes an opponent comes in and it's like, okay, if this guy can punch, let me try to see, let me try to work my way through. I don't want to get hurt. I'm here for the money. Aleem's there for the money, but Aleem is not there just for the money. Aleem's actually there for the opportunity. Every single time he fights, he's a major competitor. He's throwing big shots. He will live and die by the sword, so to speak, or live and die by the big shot. And, of course, Lester only fights that way as well. He looks for the action. I know he gets some credit for the boxing in the Mbile fight, but in reality, Lester's looking for big shots. He's looking to set up big shots. So both guys, I don't think are going to have a hard time finding one another. They are both honing in, looking for big punches.
You know what? I'm going to push back because why not? Let's have this be a little bit fun. So
yeah, we got to make it different.
I got to see Aleem take a shot from Lester before I think we got to fight.
I mean, bro,
I could see Lester walking through him.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Listen, I'll tell you this. I could see the fight ending early as well because both guys will make it a shootout. But, dude, Aleem could hurt Lester, too. I'm not saying, you listen, there's a reason Lester's the favorite. There's a reason Lester
but
is where he's at.
He's there to be found.
But he's there to be found, and Aleem can explode on your chin himself. Aleem is bad news if he hits you on the chin, and he will look to throw big punches. He doesn't care if he puts himself in the line of fire. He doesn't care if you can punch. That's what I like about Aleem. He's not your typical, okay, he's a B-side, he's the opponent, and he's going to play it that way. No, he doesn't play that role. That's why we like to bring in B-sides who aren't actually B-sides on ProBox. We have guys who both come to win, and we try to make those kind of matchups. And we really, for the budget we have on ProBox, we really tried hard to make sure this fight is competitive for you guys, and it will be fun no matter how long it lasts, because I think this fight could last or this fight could end early. But even if it ends early, it's going to go down in a blaze of glory. It's going to go down in a haze of bullets regardless. If this fight ends early, it's still gonna be a shootout for as long as it lasts.
You're right. We still have Lance Pugmire here, award-winning boxing journalist and writer. Lance, what talk about for us with this fight? What your thoughts are in terms of
bro? You know
listen,
what? Hold on. Talk FSOD says Zuffa should acquire ProBox. This show is a diamond.
I don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole.
Now they're going to buy us too? We have our own show, guys.
You're telling people you bought me, now they're buying us?
No. You're with Connelly. You're with Connelly. It's different. You're a Connelly guy. Who goes to Zuffa? But right now you're here.
I'm here.
He's on the couch here, guys.
Lance,
we got to keep Chris here.
This fight, it's... So a little backstory. It's a little interesting for this fight, right? Because with the Christian Mbili fight with Lester Martinez, WBC Fight of the Year last year, phenomenal fight. We were robbed of having a 12-rounder. It was only scheduled oddly as a 10-rounder. Ended up getting a draw. You would expect an immediate rematch. You got a great fight. You got a draw. We don't have a single winner. Run it back again. Doesn't seem like Christian Mbili wanted to go that route. But then also the looming Canelo Alvarez comes in, so then he gets in that orbit. He gets taken away from us. So give us a little bit of your thoughts on that whole situation. Since you got me and him talking about shootouts and punches, we want to hear about some of the backstory.
I think it's entirely connected to Canelo Alvarez, your good buddy, Paulie, because I think the thing is that I spoke to the Mbili side about this rematch, and they said, look, we'll do it if we really have to, but we actually think that we have an opportunity to fight Canelo Alvarez, and why wouldn't we go that route instead? So that fight does still loom, whether it happens anymore, or whether if Lester gets stuck in the Benavidez position. I could definitely see that happening, but that's what the Mbili side was thinking. We have the opportunity to fight Canelo Alvarez, the cash cow of the sport. We've got to go that route rather than go back into this. We saw that fight, like you guys said, fight of the year. That was a war, and how many wars can a guy take before he, if he still wants to be a champion? And I think that's what the Mbili camp was considering and weighing as they put everything on pause, and then ultimately got the Canelo Alvarez fight.
Well, we're very lucky to have Robert Diaz as a guest coming in right now, and Lance, thank you so much. You right down the middle, straight and narrow. Robert, you tell me your take on this. Why we're not seeing Christian Mbili and Lester Martinez, and instead these guys have gone different directions. What's your take?
Well, I mean, who's going to pass up on the golden sweepstake? If you're offered, take Lester Martinez, who now people are starting to respect. Now people are saying, man, this kid's for real. This kid deserves a shot. But 6 months ago, a year ago, ProBox fans knew who he was, but not too many outside of ProBox following did they know or respect who Lester Martinez is. Mbili, on his hand, is in a perfect situation because if you lose to Canelo, it's not really a loss. He hits the jackpot. But if he's getting Canelo at the perfect time, then I do the same thing if I had Mbili. That's the shot that you want to go for. And then later, he can always revisit Lester's, the rematch.
Roberto, that's right. That's a great point because the rematch is always going to be a fight people want to see. They'll always harp on that first fight. So the rematch is there at any given time. I think when it comes to Mbili, you're never going to be as hot as you are right now. People already knew him before the Lester fight. I think the Lester fight elevated him. I think it elevated both guys. So you're at your hottest right now. You want to strike the best situation for you financially if you're at your hottest right now. And like you said, Roberto,
also has an undefeated record.
So has his own. But they're also, as you said, it may be the best time to catch Canelo as well. And Mbili's too one-dimensional, in my opinion, to have messed with Canelo or given Canelo a tough fight in Canelo's prime. But this Canelo, as opposed to is as opposed to a super hungry Lester Martinez, an ascending Lester Martinez. It could be a Canelo who's descending. It could be a Canelo who, he wants to hang around, but he's may not be as hungry anymore. He may not be as willing to, be in the line of fire all the time. And there's many reasons for Mbili to go this route. From the fighter's perspective, you hit it on the head, in my opinion, Roberto. This is why Mbili would rather take Canelo if the WBC allows it, which obviously the WBC has allowed it. But where does Lester go? Because I don't see Lester getting Canelo if Canelo wins. And Mbili, honestly, to tell you the truth, I don't know if Mbili wants to see him right away either. He's, again, that rematch is there for a while. It will remain hot. I think there's a potential situation here where if Lester looks too good, he may be avoided a little bit, like Lance was saying, maybe a little bit of a Benavidez type of situation.
Yeah.
Well, here's where it's a perfect spot for Lester. Obviously, for Lester, the best spot would have been the rematch with Mbili and show the world I am for real. But here's where it's a good spot for Lester. Lester has been granted an interim world title. He needs to go out there and win in a couple weeks and show it wasn't just a good night for him and a bad night for Mbili. Lester is for real, and I'm here to stay. Should Mbili win the Canelo fight, because Father Time pardons no one, now the rematch is even bigger, because this is the guy that's coming off a Canelo win, and the BC is going to have to order.
But doesn't Mbili have so much more options now if he beats Canelo? Is he going to want to see a tough fight like Lester? Because Lester's a tough fight, man. He's a hungry, ascending fighter.
You beat Canelo Alvarez. You're high in the hog, man. You beat Canelo Alvarez.
You're high on the hog, but you also want to maximize your earning potential as best possible. You may be able to fight anybody you want.
Yeah, but don't you
do you want to see a hungry? I mean, as a fan, I want to see it, but do you want to see a hungry Lester if you're Mbili after you just beat Canelo? If you beat him,
maybe he is allowed by the organization to do one voluntary after beating a Canelo. No problem. It's only going to get bigger for Lester. And now, let's go on the other side. The Canelo beats Mbili. There's not too many opponents right now in that category that really make a lot of sense. Why does Lester make a lot of sense, even though he's young, strong, big? Because he brings a country behind him. Not a new country of boxing, but a brand new country. He's now going to have all the fans from Guatemala, because he is, even though it's interim, he is the first Guatemalan-born champion in the history. So he brings a whole nation, whether it's big or small. He brings something new to the table versus a French guy that fights out of Canada, or obviously Canelo's numbers have always been good pay-per-view when he's fought an American guy. But now he brings a whole country. Is he the one? Is this the Guatemala, or comes the champion? Is this the country that is willing to go to Mexico and break these numbers that is being talked about by Turkey of doing this huge card in Mexico?
Robert, I agree. I think that Lester actually is in a really good opportunistic position here. Granted, he gets by Aleem, which is not a tough guy he's a tough out for anybody. But I actually favor Canelo. I still think he's got enough to beat Mbili. I think there are things Mbili does, some holes in his defense that play right into Canelo's game, even this advanced age Canelo Alvarez. So there is a really good opportunity there that both these guys get wins, and you're Lester Martinez, you're the next in line. There's discussions like nobody wants to see Canelo and Edgar Berlanga again. I don't think Canelo wants to fight Pacheco right now. I don't think Canelo wants to fight
Adam Hurley, K1P says Malignaggi Jr. said he's moving to 168 soon. And he's beaten 3 undefeated fighters in a row. Was Malignaggi become an option for a fight against one of these
Canelo?
Guys? Not necessarily Canelo, but maybe for Lester in the interim if he's not able to get Canelo or Mbili afterwards?
Well,
I mean, that's a possibility for him. But right now, I think, obviously, like Chris says, one, he has to beat Aleem, which is stylistically a tough fight. This guy's coming in to spoil the night. Obviously, it's a big opportunity for him. Lester's going to have to be on his A game. I think he is. I think this kid is very special. And I also think he has that goal. He wants to be that first of the country. And when you have, you're fighting not just to become a champion for yourself. You're coming with several of these greats in the past, with the country on their shoulder. Manny Pacquiao did it for the Philippines. Suma Nelson many years ago. So this guy's coming for just more than his own personal legacy. He's coming to put his country on the map. And with that, he motivates the future. Amador Mendez, our own young kid from ProBox, he's right there, coming right upside of somebody he can admire, or somebody who can be a role model to him, but also a mentor.
Yeah, boxing is ethnic and tribal, so it always helps to have a country on your back. But Lance, I want to play a little game with you with these different scenarios that we are talking here. So we've got, assuming that Lester gets by Aleem, and we got Christian Mbili beats Canelo Alvarez. What's the likelihood we see Lester Martinez and Christian Mbili as the next step, and vice versa? Lester again gets by Aleem, again not a foregone conclusion, but Canelo Alvarez beats Christian Mbili. What are the chances we see Canelo and Lester next?
Well, okay. First of all, I think for Lester, and Robert Diaz made a great point, that this Guatemala fan base is really untapped. And having I live down at the beach now, but for the last 2 decades, I've lived near San Bernardino, just west of it, in a town called Upland. I know this Guatemala community that is there in San Bernardino, and that's why ProBox is bringing that fight there. And you're seeing it's basically already sold out, guys, right? At the Orange Convention Center. And we know, I mean, this is actually, I think, maybe a little bit of news. I'm not even sure I'm authorized to talk about this, but I'm going to talk about it anyway.
That's what we do here.
Yeah. So
we break rules.
Lester is, I'm going to get to you answering your question, Chris, in a second, but Lester's popularity among the Guatemalans is such that he's going to be meeting with basically the council, Guatemalan council, while he's out here in Los Angeles as well, after he does a workout on, I believe it's Wednesday of fight week. And there are talks, because ProBox wants to keep Lester busy. They want to get him back in victory. They want to get him back in a fight out here in the Southland in Los Angeles around September, around the time of Canelo and Mbili. So Lester will have another fight, and then he'll be ready for that winner. Now, look, I think that skepticism can be totally attached to the idea of, will Canelo fight him next, or would Mbili fight him next, based on the difficulty of what Lester's going to bring to the table. Whether it happens this year or even in early 2027, if it happened, I would actually be surprised. But I believe after one of those guys, whoever the winner is, after they take that next fight, Lester has got to be next for that individual.
All right. What about?
And anything else is unacceptable.
What about Luna? We're not talking about the other Cinderella story. What if Aleem knocks out Lester? Does Aleem get Canelo? That's a Cinderella story in of itself.
I mean, look, he's in a position right now, even though he's coming off a loss with Crawford, he's still in a position where he's the biggest draw, he's the biggest name, and they get to choose of who and where they fight. I really think I agree with Chris, unless he's totally hit that point where Father Time took over. This is the perfect style that's always been good for Canelo. The guy that comes out to try to knock his head out, he's a great counterpuncher. Mbili's very strong, very big physically, the naturally bigger guy.
Busy too.
But when you fight, Bernard Hopkins showed us with Pascal and showed us with
Tavares Cloud.
Yep. Exactly. Those big, strong guys get tired after 4 rounds, and we've seen that as well. I think, unless, again, Father Time has really taken over, which I think now the hunger is back from the Crawford fight. The time out has let the body heal and rest. I think we'll see a revived Canelo in September. And obviously, if you're Lester, getting back past Aleem, all you can hope, turn on the candles and hope that one day you get that call.
Champ, I'm going to answer your question. You asked what happens with Aleem. Vito Malignaggi.
Mm.
Does that not make
Correct.
sense? If Aleem were to beat Lester, he's not getting Canelo.
No.
No.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think it's Canelo or Lester or Christian.
Canelo fought Abner Yildirim, dude.
Yeah, but
Rocky
he was
Fielding.
also
He fought Rocky
five
Fielding.
times. He fought 5 times in 14 months, though.
Fought
Now
Rocky
he's
Fielding.
fighting once or twice a year. He's not going to fight Aleem.
No?
No. Can't
So
sell that
Aleem
fight.
would get a big win like that, and he would just not be rewarded.
To go right to no.
No, not to
Nope.
the biggest
Doesn't happen.
name in the division.
No way.
I agree.
I mean, Victor Ortiz won a title against Andre Berto, and then all of a sudden just jumped into the Mayweather fight. You know, and Victor hadn't been on a hot streak before that. You know, he had quit against
But
Maidana.
Mayweather saw something. Mayweather saw
You know
something.
what-
Well,
else
Canelo
is-
may see something in Aleem, no?
Yeah, but you know what else he saw? A pristine
not big
record.
enough.
You got to have a good. The record would.
Yeah,
They
Canelo-
can't put that on a
Canelo-
poster.
You know what?
Is
I'm trying to
like-
build Cinderella stories here, guys. Come on.
Hey, listen.
happening.
He beats
You know what?
Lester, then he
You know
beats
what?
Malignaggi,
know what?
then we start talking maybe.
Our co-host, who doesn't sit with us, has made a super chat, Matt Borgerson. I'm not gonna lie.
Our secret poor co-host.
No, he's in the comments every day. He's
He's
in
the-
the super chats.
he's
He's
the-
basically here without being here.
He's the boxing scene ninja.
Now he's back. This is going back to what we were talking about before. But I'm not gonna lie. I hope that more fighters do not sign with Zuffa. I feel like it's such a volatile gamble that it'll ruin their careers if it fails right now. That's Borderson on the Zuffa
I
experiment.
gotta say, I disagree on that one because if it fails, it's not gonna fail right now. It's gonna fail in a few more years. So right now,
Grab the money.
sign.
With your pockets lined up.
Yeah. So plus, if it fails, they'll be free agents and they can go sign with somebody else after they've lined their
Exactly.
pockets, right?
Honestly, what's better? So if you're signed to promotion, what's better than it failing? Like you're still alive. You're not going anywhere. That promotion fails if they weren't doing right by you, or if they were.
I think
whatever,
the risk is the opposite. Is too many guys signing them, and then that's
you
it.
get lost in the shuffle.
Then they get lost in the
Long-term,
shuffle. Yeah,
correct.
exactly. Also, Los Angeles 4140 says Canelo KOs both Mbili and Lester because they one-dimensional, come forward, easy target with no combos like Bivol or Crawford, who do have combos.
He has
I
not
love
watched Lester.
I love the Canelo fans. They just this reality doesn't hit them. Canelo knocks out everybody. It's great. It's great. So he knocks out Mbili and Lester, according to Los Angeles.
I love fanatical fans because that's where the word fan comes from, right? Fanatic, and people like everyone has. There's certain fighters have their guys. There's the Gervonta Davis guys, the Canelo
I would
Alvarez
bet
guys.
all kinds of farmland.
You say anything negative against their guy, it's
I
personal.
would bet all kinds of farmland that Los Angeles 4140 3-4 years ago was arguing that Canelo was going to fight Benavidez and knock him out. I guarantee
When's
you.
the last time Canelo scored a stoppage? And he's going to knock out both these guys?
Yeah, it's a tough one. We got another super chat from Whoa WOA HTF
Nobody. We don't care about- we don't care about that.
8567. Okay. Old Canelo fighting an unknown Central American. No. What do you mean an unknown Central American? This guy's very an ascending guy. You know, guys,
Yes,
we
he
can't just say, oh, he's from here, so we don't do the fight. If they're good, they're good. This is what happens to Russians too. Because they don't draw all of a sudden. If they're good, they don't get the fight. No,
Lance
no, I
and
don't-
Burrow are making the opposite. Thing. They're
Lance
saying
is
that
making the
they're
opposite case, right, Lance?
Right.
Lance, tell this guy, whoa.
You have no idea what you're talking
TF.
about.
Oh, not going to work here anymore.
OTF.
Come on.
He's a super chat. He's a super chat. You know, he
But
earned his
remember,
place.
Manny Pacquiao came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Right.
And he
Manny came out of
in
nowhere
on
too,
an
yeah.
HBO
True.
was HBO replacement.
For Lebwaba,
with
right?
2-3
Wasn't that when he
weeks
fought
notice.
Lebwaba?
Yes, when he knocked out Nwaba and became a world champion.
Yep.
I
That's
agree
where
with
they
you.
come
Yeah,
from. That's the
Ledwaba.
beauty of boxing. Boxing, there is
With the
hope.
blonde hair.
There is opportunities.
Yeah.
You got to jump on that train
Yeah.
when that opportunity comes by and defy the odds.
And Lester did that, Robert. Lester did that, and his breakout performance was on that Canelo card, no doubt about it. What he did against Mbele, and we just saw this past Sunday with Jai Opataya taking on a lower ranked guy, and it was like, okay, this is your opportunity to sort of like announce your presence. He didn't get it done with a knockout, and that's why there's pressure on the position that Lester is in on March 21st. Like, he's fighting a lower ranked guy, but he has the opportunity on the heels of that breakout performance to look sensational and keep that really steam train moving of saying, like, we got to see this guy. We got to see this guy every time out because look at what he does. And so for Lester, the pressure to really finish this guy in Aleem and pronounce himself as the top contender in this division is paramount. And again, like we said, with another fight coming a little bit later in the year, he has everything is there before him. And so, You know, how he performs in this moment is so interesting.
Yeah, but Lance, do you really think that Opataya didn't get it done? I mean, or was it just a case of the matchmaking on the part of Zuffa not understanding that this was going to be a guy he was never going to stop? Because Aleem shoots his bullets and he'll get stopped in the process, but he'll look to stop you. Glanton looks to stop you. He's one-dimensional, but Glanton also had never been stopped and was always going to be difficult to stop. So if
we actually right here we predicted on this show
that thought
they
were going to get
distance.
a knockout in their extravaganza opening fight with Opataya, and then their matchmaker grabbed Brandon Glanton, well, dude, they got to fire their matchmaker because that was never going to be a KO in that fight.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
But I've heard a lot of people saying that they were, you know, sort of like
underwhelmed.
It was a so-so performance by Opataya, and
I have to agree. I have to agree. And again, you'll get the naysayers, you'll get the supporter. In your debut as a man, you want this kid to come out and just explode.
Roberto, like you guys did at Golden Boy when you signed me.
Hey, first knock.
We got the stoppage against a former title challenger
in Canada against the Mexican.
Yeah, against a former title challenger.
Every last Mexican gloves, MX. So come on, that was the beauty of matchmaking.
Yep, exactly. Matt Borgerson has a response, guys. Matt Borgerson has jumped back in. He said, I mean, in terms of building up a notorious resume for Hitchens, though, I'm not sure Dana is going to love his style for the Zuffa brand.
It's a good point. It's a good point, especially because of how hot that division is, how many guys that are out there, and how much Richardson has been putting his name into the mix with all those guys.
And Borderson adds to that point. He says, in the UFC, they cut a flyweight named Mohamed Mokaev for being super boring. If Hitchens doesn't add more pizzazz to his game, he might see the same fate.
That's a good point, because UFC used to cut guys a lot who are undefeated. Did they just wrestle too much? They didn't stand and fight enough? Oh, yeah, that's a great point. We're seeing all of the model of the UFC being used in boxing now. That's something that's going to carry over as well. I never thought about it. Great point.
No holders, no runners? You mean the ProBox model?
Yeah, what else?
Yeah,
what else is there? When you got a good,
we
good
established the model at ProBox first.
Guys, let's talk real quick about keys to victory. Let's go back to the Emmanuel Aleem Lester Martinez fight, because we're talking about all these fights after the fact, but we still have this fight coming up in a couple weeks, and we all know how dangerous this kind of situation is. You know, what are the keys to victory for both these guys, whether you're Lester Martinez or Emmanuel Aleem? What are your thoughts? Paulie and I have talked about this ad nauseum, so maybe you guys can throw your 2 cents in there.
Well, I want to say that here's what impressed me about Lester. He goes from fighting on ProBox, fighting tough opponents, you know, getting ready. But you go from there to the stadium on a Canelo undercard. So what I saw in Lester was, okay, he's going to sink or swim. One, we got fight of the year from WBC. Should have been fight of the year for even more outlets, but
Agreed.
A hell of a fight. It saved the card a lot. It should have been the co-main event. But I also saw this in Lester, where he could have easily got spooked in the lights. He grew. Very good fight. We got a draw. Could he have been given the decision? Hell yes, he could have won the decision. And had it been 12 rounds, of course we'd see him today as the world champion. But now he knows he's going to be a different level come 2 weeks. You're going to see the confidence. You're going to see the fighter that says, I belong here. I'm going out and saying you're going to see an amazing knockout. 8 or 9 rounds.
Roberto, Matt Borgerson seems to agree with you. Again, like I told you, Matt Borgerson is our resident co-commentator here without being present. He says, keys to victory.
Or co-conspirator.
They are going to meet in the middle of the ring and bang to send a message to the champ that they aren't playing games right now and deserve that title shot. So a lot of similar feelings. If we know the styles of these two guys, I don't think they're going to have to look for one another.
And Lance, what are your thoughts?
I mean, look, Lester needs to be himself. He has his brand now established, and I think just enhancing that by knocking out Aleem is going to so much further that and enhance where he wants to be, again, by year's end or in early 2027. That's what he's got to take care of. That's what he has to do. And I think this upward trajectory that we're seeing from him to this point inspires the prediction that he will do so. So look, based on what you guys know about Aleem and what it sounds like, I think that this fight should be over within 6 rounds.
Okay, Whoa TF says, all I'm saying is 36-year-old Canelo has few fights left. That being said, business-wise, he's not fighting Lester. Rules say he should, but money talks.
I would use that argument for he's not fighting Aleem if Aleem were to win. Lester, I don't know. Because listen, it's a lot of minefields at 168. Do you guys agree? I mean, who else are you going to fight? They're all tough.
There's not a lot, like you said, Chris. And here's one thing. I mean, I worked with Canelo for many years, back when we were both at Golden Boy. I've known him. This is a guy that will surprise a lot of us at times, going up to light heavyweight.
Fight Kovalev, yeah, that was impressive.
Never in my wildest dreams did I ever think that, not once, but twice. So he won't continue fighting. Money-wise, he's done it. It's going to be for the fights that legacy or the fight. And I know many will say, well, how come not Benavidez? Aside from that, he's fought everybody else that he was said they wouldn't fight. Now, one thing I will add is I've been with Lester twice to Mexico. And this is a kid, not only what he does inside the ring, he is a very likable kid outside the ring.
Yeah, great point. I meant to bring that up earlier. He is very likable.
He's going to win. Not just the Guatemalans are going to support him, but everybody that comes in contact or gets to see him are going to support him because they're going to love the story and they're going to love that kid because he's very likable.
There was no doubt about it. You make a great point, Robert. I mean, there was such bad blood that took place between Benavidez and Canelo. And Canelo obviously didn't like that matchup either, I think, for reasons that we all know about. But maybe Lester is that guy. I mean, we've always talked about that Canelo owes the sport someone to surpass him and be the next guy. And maybe Lester is that guy. Lester has the perfect attitude and demeanor. He's respectful of the game. He's charismatic. He's a great kid who has paid his dues. He's got this great community behind him. I think everything is there for Lester to get this matchup and for Canelo to take that fight, based on what we've seen throughout boxing history.
And I think we got time for one more super chat that came in.
No, I read it.
No, you read it? Okay,
it's Wall TH. That being said, business.
Well, Lance, Robert, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for tuning in. Guys, stay tuned. We'll be back with the vaunted mailbag with Breadman. I know you guys love that part of it. But speaking of Lester Martinez,
keep the comments coming.
If you don't know much about Lester, check this out.
This bout is a draw, and Billy keeps his title.
Yo lo digo así, un empate con sabor a victoria después de empatar con el campeón mundial. Cuando nadie te conocía, solo tu gente estaba contigo y tu fe. Pero sí, me quedé con la espinita del título mundial del CMB.
Who's in the know really like this undefeated kid. 19-0 as he arrives at the biggest fight of his life.
The world called it Fight of the Year. He called it unfinished business, because a draw doesn't hang around your waist.
Ser nominado y quedar como la pelea del año por el CMB, incluso por otras páginas, ser el ganador de eso, no hombre, es porque sí le gusta a la gente, al mundo. Entonces se siente bastante genial.
That night didn't define him, it revealed him. There was no celebration, just reset and back to work.
Después de esa pelea descansé, me tomé el descanso necesario, disfruté con mi familia, con mis amigos, disfruté los beneficios que me trajo el hacer esta pelea, el que vieran yo esta pelea y por dónde pasaron la pelea. Y luego de eso me enfoqué una vez más.
De San Benito Petén, Guatemala.
Every walk to the ring means more now. He carries Guatemala. He carries expectation. He carries purpose.
Me emociona porque sé que es el momento donde me he preparado tantos años para esto, que Dios me da la oportunidad para poder caminar hacia un ring, para subirme a un ring a pelear y representar a mi país.
Leaving home wasn't easy. Family, friends, everything familiar. But growth requires sacrifice.
Yo creo que lo que más duele ahora es dejar mi país, dejar esa comodidad, esa zona de confort, porque están tus amigos, tu familia, tu novia, pero sabes que si no lo haces no vas a mejorar, te vas a acomodar y por más que queramos salir adelante a veces no lo logramos. A mí se me dio una gran oportunidad de estar en un gran equipo y por supuesto que la voy a aprovechar al máximo.
The mission is simple now. No promises, just results. And he plans to deliver.
Así como yo hay más chapines que se la están partiendo por representar a su país, yo voy a ser uno de ellos y yo soy uno de ellos. Así que les digo, no quiero prometerles, quiero cumplirles. Así que esperen grandes cosas de Lester Martínez.
Saturday, March 21st, ProBox TV invades the NOS Event Center as Lester Martinez and Emmanuel Aleem battle for the WBC World Super Middleweight title. Palmdale's Joshua Kevin Anton battles the Uzbeki Punisher. LA is in the house as Anthony Too Quick Cuba defends home turf against Brooklyn's Wesley Farrell, while Sam Contreras takes on Cesar Cantu.
Welcome back to Boxing Scene Today. It's your favorite time of the show, the Mailbag, with our man Breadman joining us. Breadman, thanks for joining us once again. Look at this guy, ready to go, all looking sharp. Got the good movie posters in the background. Paulie here is rehydrating.
I'm checking
checking out the super chats.
I'm checking comments. One guy said Paulie always wants Canelo to fight the number one guy, but then he wants him to fight Lester. Yeah, I know, buddy, but he's not gonna fight the number one guy. You want me to go say he should fight Benavidez? He should go fight Shiraz? He's not gonna fight those guys. So why am I gonna argue about Canelo fighting the number one guy when you already know he's not gonna fight the number one guy? So let's get off that case. I'll take the Lester fight if I can, which I don't think I'll get that either. That's it. You just put an egg on your own face.
Brad, you
number one guy.
As
if the guy's been fighting number one
obviously,
guy.
you just missed a heated conversation involving Canelo Alvarez and our guy Lester Martinez.
The guy's
Lester's
fought the number one
fighting
guy in ages. He's gonna fight the number. I'm argue about fighting the number one guy.
And
at this point, I gotta be happy if he fights the number five guy.
And we know how Paulie is. He'll never leave a fight on the table, so he's got to fight these guys in the super chats day in and day out. But Brad, you got some questions for us, correct? Like whenever you're ready, fire away.
Okay, I got a real good question. Hello, Brett. Blessings to you and yours always. I was having this debate with a couple of friends. Question: who was the more dominant fighter in their era at their peak, Floyd or Roy? I think Roy was more dominant, not saying he had a better career or has a better resume. At his peak, he was untouchable, and there was never a fight in doubt until the first Tara fight. I would say he was past his peak at that point. Would love to hear your thoughts. Angel.
Ooh, good question.
I say Roy.
I always say
very good.
The best version of Roy is essentially unbeatable. I don't think the very best version of Roy, I don't think anybody beats. I think he's just a virtuoso, superhuman type person. But in terms of, so the question is not really that. The question is who was more dominant in their era, right? Right, Brad?
Who was more dominant in their era at their peak?
Roy. There's and anybody Roy didn't fight, you didn't suspect they would beat him anyway. With Floyd, there's always that Kasha Tszyu fight. You wonder about certain other fights. But with Roy, it's like, okay, he didn't fight Nigel Benn. All right, Roy would have wiped the floor with Nigel Benn.
Yeah.
He didn't fight
Mikhailovsky.
He didn't fight Mikhailovsky. All right, he would have beat him easy. And then the guy that he beat easily, Gonzalez, ended up beating Mikhailovsky.
Right.
You know, so I don't know. I would say, and I love both fighters, mind you. And so this isn't a knock on any of them. Two of my favorite fighters ever. But I'd say Roy's more dominant in his era.
But isn't there an argument for strength of schedule and who you're fighting?
You don't know how strong the schedule would have been with Roy because he was so damn good. Like, for me, the Eric Harding fight is such an underrated win.
Yeah,
Eric Harding is so good, and you'll never hear about him unless you watch that era of boxing. So Roy was actually so good that it takes away from guys. Yo, what's up, Brent?
You know what's funny? Eric Harding, he's training fighters back in Philly now, man. He kind of resurfaced, man.
Yeah,
I saw that. I saw that on Instagram.
Yeah, he was criminally underrated because he was in the Roy era.
I introduced one of my fighters to him, and I told him, I said, "You may not know this guy. He was a bad boy, man."
Yeah, one of the best fighters to not win a championship.
Didn't he tear his bicep in the Roy fight?
Yeah.
Is that what happened?
Yeah,
He tore his bicep in the Roy
He
fight.
beat Tarver. He put the first L on Tarver's record.
That's right. He broke his. Did he break his jaw? No.
Yeah, he broke Tarver's jaw. Then Tarver knocked him out in the rematch, but Tarver had lost the first 3 rounds and then just caught him in the 4th round and stopped him.
Tarver was a hell of a puncher.
But Eric was beating Tarver again in the rematch.
Yep. Super tough. What's your take on that, Brett, with Floyd versus the Roy era discussion?
You know, the way the question is phrased, who was the more dominant in their era at their peak? I love Floyd's style and I love his accomplishment, but they kind of fought at the same time. Floyd won the title in '98, and in '98, Roy Jones was breaking Virgil Hill's ribs. And from '98 to 2004, where Roy first lost to Antonio Tarver, at no time, I like to go back to how I thought at the time, and in no time during that time did I say to myself, Floyd Mayweather is better than Roy Jones.
Well, but it's also unfair there, Brad, because the Floyd that fought Genaro Hernandez it has to be compared to the Roy that beat Bernard Hopkins. It can't be like you're just entering into the fray and Roy is in the prime of his fray. You know,
I get that, Paulie. I'm just going back to the way I viewed them in real time, and I would have to give the edge to Roy.
I give the edge to Roy too, but that 130-pound Floyd was a lot of fun to watch. But he was not the number 1 pound-for-pound fighter at the time. He was still ascending.
But you could hold Floyd close. Floyd was a terrific fighter, but you could hold him close. Jose Luis
Castillo gave him trouble.
No matter what you want to think of the fights, and you saw that Floyd could be held close.
The first Maidana fight.
You could not hold Roy Jones close when he was right. You just couldn't. You know, both of them, tremendous pedigree. They both have a lot of the same things. But people kind of forget Roy Jones was a one-punch knockout artist on top of all of those other things. He hit you on the point of your chin and knocked you out cold.
Matt Borgerson, Brad, we got Matt Borgerson's comment on this subject. He said the Roy that fought James Toney was a literal monster, not going to lie.
I mean,
there's a lot of versions of Roy that was a monster.
You know what's funny, Paulie? People talk about Roy's competition, right? So Roy is a 4-division champion. His first title shot comes against a 28-year-old Bernard Hopkins because James Toney vacated the belt and moved up. The IBF belt, he moved up, and they fought for a vacant belt. His second belt was the number 2 pound-for-pound 44-0 James Toney, where he was the underdog. His third belt comes against an older
Mike
but
McCallum.
not completely shot Mike McCallum, and then he loses it on a disqualification, and he fights the criminally underrated Montel Griffin, who happens to be an Olympian.
Montel Griffin was
and
good.
Then he unifies that belt and holds the light heavyweight title for 6 years, and he beats guys like the Eric Hardens that you're talking about.
Even Reggie Johnson, good win.
The Reggie Johnsons that's criminally underrated. And then he beats Virgil Hill in a non-title fight. And Murky Sosa, a guy who had just got voted to have the best chin in boxing, and Roy Jones knocks him out in 2 rounds. And then, you know, he beat John Ruiz, and people said, well, you know, Ruiz wasn't Lennox Lewis, but
Ruiz has some good heavyweight wins.
Hell yeah.
He's beating guys like Rockman.
Yeah.
I mean, Roy's
and Galata
Roy's
and Kirk Johnson.
resume.
Ruiz had good wins.
Hey, Paulie, I just added up Roy's resume one day. Roy has wins over 8 Hall of Famers, and people talk about his resume.
Yeah.
He has 8 Hall of Famers on his resume.
Yeah.
He's
top dog.
I love Floyd. The more dominant fighter, in my opinion, was Roy Jones. Roy Jones, if Roy Jones had moved differently outside of the ring, and he doesn't come back down and fight Tarver, and he fights the version of Mike Tyson and the version of Evander Holyfield in the 2003-ish, 2004 time span, he's the best fighter to ever live.
I think if he stopped after Ruiz, he was. I think right there. If you end his career there, he's already He's already.
Well,
How do you argue?
Why I didn't end it there, Chris? Because he didn't end it there. He had a choice. He could have went back down to fight Tarver, or he could have stayed up to fight Holyfield or Tyson.
Yep.
He would have beat those versions of Holyfield.
That Tyson fight was that was a real thing, and they were talking about that quite a bit at that time. That would have been.
I think he would have beat those versions of Holyfield and Tyson. Yep. I don't think he would have beat the prime versions of them, but I think he would have beat those versions of them. And then he walks away. He's the best fighter we've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
So my answer is Roy Jones. It's just no disrespect to Floyd, but my answer is Roy Jones. I saw Roy Jones from 93 to 2004, and I don't know if you can get much better than that. I think there's some light heavyweights that can give him some trouble, but Roy was a very rough out for anybody in history close to his size. And he could beat a lot of smallish heavyweights.
All right, bro, we got to take a quick break. We're throwing to Najee Lopez fighting this weekend over in Kissimmee, Florida. Check it out.
On Friday, March 13th, ProBox TV returns to Kissimmee, Florida for another action-packed contender series. In the 10-round main event, ProBox TV alumnus and fast-rising world-ranked light heavyweight Najee Lopez takes another stern test against Mexican top contender Manuel Gallegos. Up-and-coming Dominic Valle will take on battle-hardened veteran Eduardo Ramirez of Mexico.
Welcome back to Boxing Scene Today. Chris Algieri here, and of course, my man Paulie, the Magic Man Malignaggi. We got a very special guest, Arnold Barbosa, who is headlining a fight this weekend, is taking time away from his training to step up and hang out with us. Arnold, what's up, brother? How's it going?
He doesn't hear. Oh, nice. Audio. Hold on.
Come on, truck.
What are we doing, truck?
Hey, Arnold, can you hear me?
He doesn't hear us.
Nope.
He doesn't hear us. Yeah.
Well, we spoke about, Arnold Barbosa's fighting Sims.
Well, I got a super chat.
About this?
Guti0331 said, why is boxing dead in Chicago? We're the third largest market. Bring it back.
Well, let's go to Chicago. ProBox TV, we could go to Chicago.
We could go to Chicago.
We got to get a Polish fighter, though.
They haven't produced. They had David Diaz. They had, he was from Chicago. David Diaz was a former lightweight champion.
Okay.
Galata, obviously.
Polish.
Polish, we could, Mexican or Polish, I think that's a good market in Chicago. He's got to produce the top champions, though, man. We got to go back there and lead. I think there'll be boxing fans.
We're not going in the winter, though. I don't do the winter month in Chicago. Sorry, guys. Love Chicago. Love Chicago.
We're getting close to summer. Spring is in the air.
You know what? Let's talk to Gary Jonas, the CEO of Boxing Scene, and we can of ProBox. Excuse me. Mm-hmm. Let's get out there, see if we can get a fight in Chicago. Because Chicago summers are nice. Yeah, I like Chicago.
Yeah.
Used to be a really good boxing scene up there, actually. But we.
I love how we just went away from the mailbag, but we lost Barbosa. And now what are we doing?
Right now we're
just hanging around. We're like Beetlejuice. We're just hanging around.
Yeah. We got any good juicy comments in there?
I don't know. Let's see. The knock on Roy is he didn't fight overseas and fight Darius or Calzaghe. I mean, Calzaghe.
He did fight Calzaghe.
He did fight Calzaghe when Calzaghe came here, but
we spoke
they
about
were in different weight classes. Also, Calzaghe's resume, strength of schedule itself. See how strength of schedule doesn't wind up mattering if you don't get beat. Calzaghe's strength of schedule wasn't exactly stellar himself.
No. Well,
but he didn't get beat. So
that was one of the things that I think was that era of Floyd where people felt like he was protecting his record because a loss would have really tarnished him, and not so much just because it's a loss, because we have great fighters with losses.
Yeah, and the comparison of Roy and Calzaghe is a big one. Let's see.
All right, I think I'm being told. Being told we got Arnold back on the line. Hopefully, he can hear us this time. Arnold, you can hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you
We
guys.
got him. Welcome to the show, brother. Man, thank you for taking some time. I know you got a fight around the corner. Just talk to us about how you're feeling about this opportunity, headlining a show, moving up in weight. Right, this is a 47 fight.
Yeah, man. No, man. Camp was great. Obviously, I train at Big Bear, so people that have trained up there know how it is. We're on the Abel Sanchez rules, man. So you got 4-minute rounds, 30-second rest, and all that crazy stuff. But I'm feeling amazing, man. 147, man. It's it feels good not losing those 7 pounds, man. Yesterday, ate a piece of steak, a big old piece of steak. I don't know if people see my stories, but it's the first time I ever did that, and man, it feels good.
Yeah, bro, I remember calling fights for you on Top Rank. I'm like, how the hell does this guy make 140? Yeah, you big, tall, wide. You filled in each and every fight. And you always look so much bigger than the guys you're fighting. So you must feel a lot better. Obviously, you're in good spirits talking to us now. With the fight only a few days away. So welterweight seems like a better fit.
Yeah, man, way better. Feel stronger, faster. I think people are gonna finally see the full, the full me. I think they're gonna see the full potential that I have. So I'm excited.
What are your thoughts on Sims?
Man, you know what? Sims is a good fighter, man. A really good fighter. He does a little bit of everything. He can counter punch. He can box. He can stay in the inside. So we have our hands full, man. This is gonna be a really tough fight. I think a bit of a chess match is the beginning, but he's a really good fighter, man, and we're gonna have respect for Sims.
You talk about it's a tough fight, but it's getting to be a tough weight class too. The weight class is moving in a direction where it's starting to pick up steam again. There's a lot of good fights, and unlike the 140-pound division, Arnold, you're now, I think, one of the more recognizable names at 147. Where at 140 you were good, but it was almost like people didn't want to let you into the fray too much for a while. For a while you were hanging around at 140 undefeated and were a good fighter, but you almost like they didn't let you into the room. I feel like at 147 you're one of the more known entities there in a weight class that is getting pretty hot.
Yeah, man, 147 is getting really hot, really fast. A lot of people from 40 are moving up. It was my time, man. I gotta follow the money too. I can still make 140, but it wasn't. My dad said it was time, man. 11 years at 140, and it was time for 47, man. Especially after that Tszyu fight. So we're excited, man. We're excited. We're ready. We can't wait to get headline fight at home. It's been a minute. Been traveling all over the world to fight. So finally get to fight home.
Yeah, you mentioned the money. I think it's actually better money at 47 right now because of what the champ was just saying. In fact, you mentioned Teofimo Lopez. He's another one who apparently is moving up to 147. Is that something that could be down the line, to get that rematch? Because since you say you feel so much better at 47, and I know you and I spoke about the Teo fight pretty shortly afterwards when we saw each other in California. Is that something that's maybe on the timeline for Arnold Barbosa down the line?
Oh man, of course. I would love to get my lick back, as I say. You know what I mean? Like I don't know who wouldn't. I offered Catero to fight me for this fight. He didn't want to, and I was like, man, how you not gonna want to fight somebody that beats you? So we're excited. Like you said, like I talked to you about Teal fighting the whole situation. So we're excited to move on and move forward. But I know my career, everything has been earned, not given. So we know that we're gonna have to earn it and start some Sims.
Yeah, and we spoke about this actually with Lance Pugmire. He's an award-winning writer. He was saying that you had mentioned that you felt a little bit stale on that Teofimo fight, and then asked what our take was coming from a fighter's perspective, and I said 100%. And I said I would have said that about you even if you hadn't said it because of all the time you spent as a contender calling out Teofimo Lopez for years. You finally get the shot, and then like you said, you just didn't feel your optimum. And you're always a guy who trains really hard. Tell us a little bit more about this Abel Sanchez hookup and what it's been like training over there.
Yeah, man. Starting off the Teofimo, I just, I wanted activity, and I got it. And I got, I'm not a young buck no more, man. So I fought, November, Ramirez, and right away, I had a week off. I fought Catero in February, a week off. Literally, I went back to camp for Teo, so it was my body at the end was just tapped out. If you look at my weigh-in pictures from the Teo fight, my body's never looked like that. I look so big, man, like fat, so I never looked like that. But anyways, the Abel Sanchez, I've been going to Big Bear training since 2019. That was my first training camp when I fought Mike Alvarado. I'm loving up there. I always, wanted something out there, so I actually bought a house out there, and I used it for training camps. And my last 3-4 camps, I've been training at Big Bear, man. And the training camps are hard, man. It's not. There's no joke. So, so the body needed to rest. And right now my body's fully rested. It's feeling amazing, man. Abel Sanchez will be on my corner also as well on Saturday.
Arnold, what would be visualizing the ideal headline for you Sunday morning? The ideal headline. What is the goal for people to see Sunday morning when they look at the headlines about your fight?
Oh man, they're gonna see an explosive Barbosa. They're gonna say, a statement that I made at 147 because a lot of people have been coming up to 147. The Ryan, Rolly, everybody. They've been making statements. Especially Haney, his last fight with Norman. So I gotta make one myself. If I want to be considered the top with these guys. So Sunday morning, man, I look forward to people saying what a dominant performance I put on.
That's great, Arnold. And I don't want to take too much more of your time. I know you got a fight right around the corner. So thanks so much for taking the time to join us. And best of skill this weekend. I don't believe in luck, so I always say good skill.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you guys, man. Thank you for having me.
All right.
Thank you, Arnold.
Nice.
Yeah.
And we're coming back now. Breadman, we got back with the mailbag. We got cut off there, but we're back. We got some more questions. So stay tuned.
Saturday, March 21st, ProBox TV invades the NOS Event Center as Lester Martinez and Emmanuel Aleem battle for the WBC World Super Middleweight title. Palmdale's Joshua Kevin Anton battles the Uzbeki Punisher. LA is in the house as Anthony Too Quick Cuba defends home turf against Brooklyn's Wesley Farrell, while Sam Contreras takes on Cesar Cantu.
Champ, it was good to hear from Arnold Barbosa, especially this close to the fight. And like I said, I mean, him moving up to 47, I think makes a lot of sense. I don't know how he made 140 back in those days. And to his own point, saying he felt flat during the Tszyu fight, we might see a different version.
Well, when you can have steak on fight week,
yeah,
weigh-in week, it's nice.
And it's nice.
It's not a privilege everybody gets.
But also, he's kind of getting like a, I don't want to call it a soft entry because Sims is super tough, but it's another 40-pounder. It's not like he's stepping into a much bigger guy.
Yeah.
He's stepping up with another 40-pounder moving up.
Yeah, and that's usually the way you move, right? When you move up in weight, you fight other guys who have also moved up in weight until you have to fight those natural guys from the new weight class. So, and eventually that will come if he's able to be fortunate enough to get those bigger fights.
Nice. And we got Breadman back in the mix. Bread, you got another question for us, I believe, yeah?
I do. I got a real good one. The IBF needed undisputed heavyweight champion Larry Holmes to publicly declare his allegiance to them over everyone else for boxing fans to accept that title. The WBO needed Bernard Hopkins to declare himself not actually undisputed until he beat Oscar De La Hoya for the boxing fans to accept that title. How is Zuffa Boxing Championship going to get one of those moments? I don't think it's going to be Jai Opataya choosing that title over the IBF. How do you see this happening? Is it through Alexander Usyk, as other titles continue to strip him? Is it through a young superstar like Ryan Garcia, or does it not happen for them at all, like it hasn't happened for the IBO? Thank you for your thoughts.
Wow,
very good question.
Solid question.
That's
good history too.
Very good question.
Very good question.
Well, I gotta say, in the case of the WBO, because I was too young to remember the IBF sort of entering and whatever destabilization that might have caused, but I can remember the WBO entrance, and I can remember that the WBO was first bigger in Europe, so it entered regionally. Even though the WBO is based in Puerto Rico, it entered the fray in Europe and was considered a pretty big deal in Europe. Guys like Nassim Hamed won it, Joe Calzaghe had it. And
big guys,
several
big name
guys that
big
went on
guys.
to become even bigger and bigger, and they started with that WBO title. Then I remember in 2004, around the time that we're talking with Hopkins, Miguel Cotto won the WBO title. Yep. It was his first world championship when he beat Kelson Pinto for the vacant WBO title.
That's right.
Which is a guy who had beaten him a couple of times in the amateurs, and he avenged that. Cotto was on a tear with avenging amateur losses in the pros, I'll tell you. But yeah, I can maybe Zuffa's play is to make the belt enter regionally, make it big in one region of the world after another until you gain global acceptance. What do you think, Brad?
I am old enough to remember the IBF, and what they did was they appointed Larry Holmes and they appointed Aaron Pryor.
Ray Mancini even told me they gave him the belt too, but I think he didn't pay the sanction fee, something like that. Ray Mancini had actually, he said, people don't know, they actually, offered me or gave me the IBF. I don't remember exactly the situation, but yeah, about these appointments, it seems like they were doing that, Brad. You obviously mentioned
Brad,
Larry
you mentioned the IBO. They reached out to me a bunch of times to fight for their title.
Yeah.
Yes, a bunch of times.
Nice.
Again, they need just like all these belts. They need a star champion to accept it and hold it up.
I'll tell you guys something. When Julian Williams fought Jared Hurd, we fought for the IBF, the WBA, and the IBO titles. And the IBO titles because that was on the line, it allowed us to get one of the judges off that I thought would not be a good judge.
Nice. Okay.
So I have no issue with the IBO. I respect them. But to answer the question, I think they might have to take the IBF route that they did 40 years ago. And the IBF was smart, in my opinion, because they appointed 2 great Hall of Fame fighters where there was no dispute of their supremacy. They just didn't pull a guy out. They pulled Larry Holmes and they pulled Aaron Pryor, which was 2 great fighters. So when you appoint those guys champions, it's not going to be the same argument as if you appoint a new kid that's just trying to prove itself that just won the title. So I think they may have to go that route, but who knows? It's a really tough. It's a very layered question. I don't know if they can do Usyk because Usyk probably has 2 or 3 more fights left. I'm not sure if he's the guy. It has to be somebody who's already established, but not somebody that's going to be leaving anytime soon. In my opinion,
someone like Shakur.
So the play, maybe Shakur.
That's a good one, Chris. I didn't think. Yeah, I mean,
because as soon as they said Usyk, I said it's not going to be Usyk. Because I agree with you, he doesn't have that much. But Shakur, absolutely, especially a guy who's already he's shown to have some fight with WBC already.
The thing about Shakur, though, you can't give him a salary cap. You can't pay him $600,000 to fight. Yeah. So that's why I don't like to comment on these rules because everything in boxing, as we know, is fluid.
Well, it seems
will be flexible. So you can't pay him that money.
Well, they seem to have these Super Bowl type fights that are separate from the league, and those Super Bowl type fights are not included in that contract of the caps. Yeah,
you can't put Shakur in the apex. He's got to be on one of those super big fights, and he can't have a salary cap because you're looking at an 8-figure fighter.
I think that's where your long-term play thing comes into play there because you do the league in the meantime, and then you do these Super Bowl type fights separately where there's no cap on the Super Bowl type fights. And the Super Bowl type fights are basically other people's fighters. You're matching them in big money fights, and you do four or 5 of those a year. In the meantime, your league builds up, and so eventually you'll be having more and more people in the league. The guys who fight in the Super Bowl type fights will be phasing out little by little as they get older, and then all of a sudden your league becomes your Super Bowl type fights, and then all of a sudden those guys are capped. So that could be the long play to where little by little you phase out the big money fights in general, and eventually start using your league as those Super Bowl type fights. But until one generation passes, you may not be able to do it. But these guys have a 7-year deal with Paramount plus Turkey Al-Sheikh money, so they may have that money to burn. Brad, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, again, it's one of those things where you could see the long play happening in that way. In terms of the entrance, you guys are mentioning a big name to take the title, so to get that title and legitimize it. So I think that we've established 2 ideas. One would be the WBO route, which was start with one continent after another until you get global acceptance. And then the IBF route was, have a big name, have your title and legitimize it, or have a big name or 2 to have your title and legitimize it. We've seen that work with the IBF, and we've seen that work with WBO. But it doesn't always work, right? Because the IBO was involved in a lot of big fights, but they just couldn't cross that barrier. Because eventually, 4 sanctioning body titles is a lot already. Yeah, the 5th one, it just starts to water things down.
And then you got the ring. Where does the ring fall in? Because I'm not sure how that falls in.
It doesn't, because it doesn't enforce anything.
It used to be a belt that, like, amongst fighters and amongst champions, it was cool to have. And Shakur speaks highly of the ring belt quite a bit. So did Terrence Crawford. So you got guys like that who start speaking out on the ring belt, but the ring has been around for a long time. Zuffa's brand new. They need a spokesman. They need a mouthpiece for Zuffa belt to someone to stand up and look at that belt and go, "This is really the belt that matters."
Funding for Ring and Zuffa is kind of the similar. Funding,
it is. Well, it is, and it wasn't always though, because the Ring has been around before Zuffa.
But since Crawford and Shakur made those comments, the money's coming from the same place. Since Crawford and Shakur made those comments, the money's coming from the same place.
Right.
Give me somebody old times that tells you about the ring belt, where they're not compromised by the money to have to talk good about the ring belt.
But does compromise by the money really get noticed by the people who are the fans? Noticed by us, it doesn't matter. So when you have that, it matters where it's coming from, not where the money's coming from, and that's neither here nor there. But
that's why we do the show.
Yeah, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to be back. We got some more questions coming. Don't go anywhere.
On Friday, March 13th, ProBox TV returns to Kissimmee, Florida for another action-packed contender series. In the 10-round main event, ProBox TV alumnus and fast-rising world-ranked light heavyweight Naji Lopez takes another stern test against Mexican top contender Manuel Gallegos. Up-and-coming Dominic Valle will take on battle-hardened veteran Eduardo Ramirez of Mexico.
Welcome back. ProBox TV presents Spotlight Interview. We are honored to have Tszyu with us. Myself, Chris Algieri, Paulie Malignaggi here. Spotlight Interview. Got Tszyu. He's got a big fight coming up with some potential big fights down the line. Tim, welcome to the show. Thanks for taking the time, taking away your time from training camp. Got a big one coming up. Just tell us about how camp is going, how you're feeling, and where your head's at this time and place.
Yeah, right now I'm basing myself out of Miami, so I've been here for the past
you're right here.
6 weeks.
You're with us.
Yeah. But yeah, camp's going good. I'm here with Pedro Diaz, so yeah, everything's going according to plans.
I was worried we made you get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, Tim. I thought maybe you went back to Australia. I was like, why do we make this guy get up at 5 o'clock in the morning for the interview?
No, I'm here. I'm around the corner.
All right, good.
How you like in Miami? How was the lifestyle here? How's the training? A lot of good sparring, I'm sure. What's your take of training camp down here?
Yeah, well, before I was doing training camp in Las Vegas, which I didn't like actually.
There's more Russians in Miami. Sunny Isles. There's more Russians in Sunny Isles.
Now, Miami, I can't complain, man. Besides the one freeway that everyone just drives like a maniac.
Yeah, stay off that. Stay off 95.
Yeah. But besides that, everything's good.
I like the maniac driving. It's better than the slow driving.
You are the maniac driver. So if you see this guy on the road next to you, Tim, just pull over. Just get out of the way.
Yeah,
I don't like driving slow. I got to get to where I got to go. Tim, how's things coming together with Pedro? Obviously, he's a very technical trainer. I was talking about one of the benefits to take yet another fight prior to the attempted Errol Spence fight would be to gain more chemistry with a technical trainer like Pedro Diaz. So how's that coming along?
Yeah, of course. I think for the past, however long I've been in my boxing career, I've only been with one coach, one methodology, one method, the only thing that I've ever really known. So the fact that I'm getting new eyes, new outlook on boxing, and just even coming back to the corner and how things are said in certain ways, everything's so different. So I'm getting used to the whole dynamic, even the language, the key words, the chemistry before the fight, the training methods, everything plays a part. So I'm getting used to it, and I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, Tim, we have our resident top trainer and boxing historian, Breadman, here. If you Bread, you got any questions for Tim getting ahead of his fight?
I do have a question. Why did he want to take a tune-up fight before the possible Errol Spence fight?
Well, first of all, I like to stay busy. They predicted Errol Spence for like later in the year. So for me, I've never been about waiting, and I've always about staying in the gym, doing another camp, and for me, it was about getting the chemistry again with my coach, with Pedro, and just learning from both of each other and getting to know each other much more better.
How has it benefited your confidence to be in camp? Obviously, get the win the last time around. Attempt another win here, and just put in the work with Pedro.
Yeah, it was. I was talking about it before, but the last time I fought against Velasquez, I went from doing like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of rounds, maybe to a certain extent where I was overdone in most fights, to doing more technical type rounds, and it's play around, and sometimes it's very hard, sometimes it's softer, but it's just different types of rounds, and going from war to war to war to war to a more of a approach of just like letting it flow has been a big part for me. So I think that's the biggest thing I've learned with Pedro. But now we're stepping it up, and we're going for harder sparring, and the rounds have been getting are good.
Yeah, I've not noticed some of the Pedro's videos on Instagram. Very technical guy. Even
you say technical, but I say scientific. I think
a
he's
lot of
very
cool old school videos of him, like him holding pads for Casamayor and guys like that. Like he goes back a while with some really good, again, technical guys.
He really goes into the science of training. And Tim, you brought up how some are high days, low days. It's kind of like the old, actually an old Russian where you go high, hard days. You back to back. It's 3 workouts and then a day and then a half a day off and then and 3 up. So it's that revving up and revving down, revving up, revving down, so you can maximize your increased potential as you go. And if you've seen anything, and I've been watching Pedro for years, you see the way it's very scientific the way that he makes his training camps, which I think is perfect for Tim. You've always been a high contact guy, but you're also super technical, and you've had some high contact fights, so it's makes sense. How about sparring down here? Any notable guys or notable names, or because there's always just a bevy of guys coming from all different places. You've got Latin American countries that are coming up here all the time in Miami. You've got guys visiting because who doesn't want to visit Miami? It used to be Vegas, right? Everybody would go to Vegas, but it seems more and more like Miami's the place to be if you want to get some good work.
Yeah, no, I've had some good sparring this time around, like 4 different boys. There's this one fella, I forgot his name, I'll be honest, but he's been helping me out. Again, sort of similar to my opponent, moves around and that type of work. But yeah, I've had a couple Cuban national champs and stuff like that. So it's been definitely some good work.
I have a question for Tim. How do you reconcile being in this era? Like, because you're kind of a throwback guy who's willing to fight anybody, and these guys in this era, they're not willing to fight anybody. And I've seen you get criticism for, fighting Fundora through the cut. I was at that fight. I thought you won the first fight, actually. And I know you were going to fight Virgil Ortiz. You kind of like don't care who you fight. So how do you balance the carefulness of the matchmaking to your natural temperament of just being willing to fight anybody?
Yeah, I think probably setting up the right team around you. The ones that sort of say, you know what, let's slow it down a little bit now. let's not go straight for that. I think us as fighters, we have to have the mentality to just keep on rising to any challenge that's put in front of you. And I've always been about staying active, taking on the best possible fights at all time. And I feel like a lot of people should come with that type of mentality. Unfortunately, these days, it's a slowed down to a certain extent, but now I think boxing's back up. Everyone's sort of you see it in the past year or so. Like everyone's starting to fight the best against the best, so it's good to see.
Tim, tell us. Go ahead, Steven. Finish out your thought.
No, I was just saying I got a lot of respect for his mentality. He's taken a couple of losses over here. Even the first fight with Terrell Gausha, he got knocked down, but he still was willing to go in there and fight. But there's not a lot of that in this era. And I was just wondering, because it is tough when you want to fight and then the people around you are saying, slow it down, because then you may start thinking they don't have confidence in you to win. So I was just seeing how he deals with that. Because I know fighters that if they say, I want to fight Paulie, and I say, you know what, we don't need Paulie right now, they'll turn around and say, well, you don't believe I can beat him? They get mad at you.
Yeah.
So I would just wonder how you deal with that with your team. You know what I mean? Because I know it can be tough on you.
It's tough to be a warrior, Tim. It's tough to be a warrior.
Yeah, I've never really had that. I've sort of just whoever I really wanted, they've sort of just put me in, so it doesn't really bother me.
What's your thoughts on Nurja, real quick, Tim? Before we let you go, what your opponent Nurja, back-to-back undefeated guys. Maybe they haven't stepped up to your level before fighting you, so it's supposed to be what is looked at as tune-ups, but they're not super tune-ups either. I mean, they're not exactly guys who are stale in front of you. They're guys who are going to come to win. Undefeated guys tend to have that little bit of hunger, a little bit of chip on their shoulder, and also they're gonna be looking at it as you're their ticket to the next level. If they can remain not only undefeated but also beat a guy like you, it would be a big piece for their resume. So, what are your thoughts in general on Nurja as a fighter, and also on the mentality you expect from him?
The mentality is the fact that he's going to come in 100% ready. This is his golden ticket to to the gold time, you know. So I've got to expect the best version of himself. Sort of at this level, they sort of tend to rise 20%, 30% just because of the occasion, just because of what's involved. So, of course, I'm expecting the best. From what I'm aware, he's a very slick boxer, good fundamentals, has traveled the world, but again, probably not not to my extent that he can match with me.
All right.
Tim, you brought a great point. You said that, you guys are going to be, 10, 20, 30% better. I remember Arturo Gatti used to always say, again, when guys fight me, it's the best version of them coming to see me, because
It's a career changer.
Because you're a star. You're a guy that you're an ascending guy. You're a well-known guy, and these guys are not as well-known. They're coming in. To your point, Champ, they're looking to steal some of that shine. So that's an interesting point that I think a lot of people don't really understand. These guys are stepping up to the biggest stage of their career to fight you, even though we haven't really seen these guys. But don't want to take too much more of your time. I know you're in training. You got a fight around the corner. We appreciate you taking the time. Welcome to Miami. I'm glad you're having a good time. We love it up here, but we'll see you soon, champ.
I appreciate it, guys. Have a good one.
Later, Tim.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. Make sure you don't go anywhere. We're coming back with more Boxing Scene Today. See y'all in a few.
Saturday, March 21st, ProBox TV invades the NOS Event Center as Lester Martinez and Emmanuel Aleem battle for the WBC World Super Middleweight title. Palmdale's Joshua Kevin Anton battles the Uzbeki Punisher. LA is in the house as Anthony Too Quick Cuba defends home turf against Brooklyn's Wesley Farrell, while Sam Contreras takes on Cesar Cantu.
Welcome back to Boxing Scene Today, where we talk about all the latest hot topics in the sport of boxing, in the world of boxing, and everything in between. So I've got some interesting news here from the bare-knuckle side of the boxing world. We got some hot signings. John Molina. John Molina, excuse me. I got
John is the old Puerto Rican,
the older Puerto Rican,
90s
right.
Puerto Rican guy. That's a typo there. John Molina, the modern one from California,
joins BKB alongside.
Thank God it's not John. John's got to be like 60 years old.
I wouldn't want to see that. John Molina and Victor Ortiz, who we spoke about a little while ago. Also Lee Selby, and this guy's sitting right next to me.
Yeah, BKB.
Making big moves.
Got it. They're making those big boxing signings little by little. Guys, a lot of former champions and former top contenders in boxing are gravitating there. I've mentioned it before. I think that BKFC is more angled and hedged towards former UFC stars and MMA stars. BKB has more hedged, it seems like. And don't get me wrong, both promotions do carry boxers and MMA guys, but it seems like BKB has hedged it more towards former boxing contenders and champions as well, as far as grabbing the big names and the big fish they're trying to pull into the pool to attract more attention. So either way, I think this is another big signing. Molina was always a very exciting fighter, a fighter
could punch too.
Could punch and also made good fights. You remember his come from the brink win over Mickey Bay, fights like that. He was
also Lucas Matisse was a fight of the year type fight, and Ruslan Provanikov, another fight of the year type guy.
He was a guy who brought excitement as well as the performance aspect of it and knew how to win. So another big signing for BKB, and it adds to the recent big championship level signings coming from boxing to BKB. Obviously you had myself, but Lee Selby, Victor Ortiz was a recent big one as well. And now John
Austin
Molina.
Trout has been kicking
Austin
butt.
Trout at PKFC is the first former boxing world champion to also become a bare-knuckle world champion. So you got a shout out to Austin. He's been doing great over there.
Who has come to some of our ProBox TV shows, and we've had a chance to speak to him.
I'm trying to be the second guy to win a bare-knuckle title of being an ex-boxing world champion, if I can pull that off in May.
And also joining the two-sport air, like myself.
Well, that's what I'm trying to keep up with this guy. Two kickboxing world champion and a boxing world champion.
So he's trying to. So right now, I got 3 world titles. I got 2 in kickboxing, 1 in boxing. You got 2 world titles, both in boxing. So then you're trying to get the. So then we're gonna.
That way we can match the hosting accolades.
We got to bring all our belts in though, like all the different belts, because we got all these.
We got these great posters here, guys.
Yeah, these posters we all over the place. Paulie's actually on the wall over there versus Cotto. I'm over on the wall over here with Manny Pacquiao. But you brought up a good point about how one organization seems to be signing more of the MMA fan base.
Secret Dance Move asked BKB or BKFC. So the Molina is signed with BKB. Again, it looks like BKB is angling more towards the boxing stars. BKFC seems to be angling more towards the MMA stars, even though Austin Trout is a world champion in BKFC, or was. I think he vacated that title to try to move down and
Thanks for clearing that up, because that's my next point is going to be, there's pluses and minuses for both approaches, right? Whether you're going the MMA route or you're going the boxing route. I think if you go the MMA route, you're going to get a quick crossover eyes, right? Because I think the UFC fans are probably more willing to go and look at bare-knuckle versus traditional boxing guys who might be like, I don't want to see that boxing stuff.
But that's the thing. I think they're trying to tap into that market. BKB. See, the BKB.
So that's what I was going to say. So the positive of the going the MMA route, I think you're going to get instant eyes. But I think the positive of going the true boxing route is it's actually going to change the sport, because that's where the sport's going.
Well,
it's going to be boxers. It's going to be higher level guys.
And the thing is, BKB originally started in England. BKFC started in the U.S. So BKB merged with BYB, which was Dada 5000's Backyard Brawls. So BKB and BYB merged together and kept the BKB name because BKB was older. Then BKB stood for bare knuckle boxing. BYB stood for Backyard Brawls. They kept the BKB name. BKFC,
good choice.
BKFC went with again, started in the US. They have the same rules, and for the most part, the difference is the BKB uses the trigon, which is much smaller surface, so there's less running around. BKFC uses a circle ring. You guys are probably familiar with that if you've seen BKFC fights. Also, BKB rounds are 3 minutes.
Right. Big difference.
BKFC rounds are 2 minutes. So
a lot more damage on the hands, a lot more damage on the face.
A lot of similarities and some differences, but again, the boxers, BKB signing recently, they're making a big push to get to that next level as well.
And which one has the trigon?
The trigon is BKB, which is where Molina just signed and where I fight.
That's when you're fighting in that long,
small,
extended triangle.
Yeah, it's basically small. It's not that long. You wish it was longer sometimes, but it's not. There's not a lot of space in there.
Not a lot of place to run.
Not a lot of space in there. It's actually the smallest combat surfacing in combat sports.
Makes sense.
So either way, but another great snag for BKB with Molina. He can.
Did they
be
say
moved
what weight
around.
he's going to be? He looked
I don't know.
big
Yeah.
when I saw the picture.
Well, Molina was always pretty big even at 135, 140 when he fought there. So, but at this point, he's been retired a little bit.
47.
We'll see. We got some good comments. Paul Spadafora is a great trainer. Tom Yankello, he knows the game inside out.
Yep.
That's a random one, but I love Yankello as a trainer, by the way. He's super, super knowledgeable guy. What else we got over here?
I just saw him in Detroit, actually.
Trout been fighting bare knuckle since when he came out. Yeah, Trout been very dominant in the BKFC.
He tunes guys up, too.
He's been doing very, very well. I tell you, man, Austin has done a great job over there. BKFC is a possibility of McGregor in the future. Yeah, that's a cock tease. He's never going to fight there. I will bet you all kinds of farm money.
Yeah, and he's also going to be on the White House card.
Yeah,
get out of here.
Yeah, but he does a good job of keeping his name in there. Either way, though, a big signing could create a lot of possible fun fights depending on what weight Molina lands in. I know he's a sheriff or an officer in the LAPD now,
that's
a high level.
A lot of
so that's going to be that usually gets a lot of support as well if they do the fights there. California, though, I will say for the BKB rules, California has just accepted BKB, but they won't do the 3 minutes. California has had BKFC because they do 2 minutes. BKB, they told the commission said we'll let you do it, but it's got to be 2 minutes. So I think early on BKB's California shows will be 2 minute rounds, but overall in other states it'll be 3 minutes. Yeah, eventually you hope that that can move along and get that figured out.
That's interesting. But well, listen, we've been here for quite some time. We have fights this weekend. Make sure you guys tune in or get there. We're in Kissimmee. We got Najee Lopez in a very, very tough fight. So you guys want to check it out. But thanks for spending your time today on Boxing Scene Today. One more super chat.
Hold on. No, Secret Dance Move said, did BKFC ever talk to you? Dude, I fought BKFC when they robbed me against Lobov.
Guys, do
and
your
that's
homework.
not BKFC's
fault. That was
the three blind idiots in the Florida commission.
Do your homework, otherwise you're going to get lashings from Paulie Monage here. But again, thanks for tuning in. Check out our fight this weekend, ProBox TV, Najee Lopez. Check us out.
On Friday, March 13th, ProBox TV returns to Kissimmee, Florida for another action-packed contender series. In the 10-round main event, ProBox TV alumnus and fast-rising world-ranked light heavyweight Najee Lopez takes another stern test against Mexican top contender Manuel Gallegos. Up-and-coming Dominic Valle will take on battle-hardened veteran Eduardo Ramirez of Mexico.